What's up, everybody? Welcome, my friends. My friends. Hello. Acerbate, your first one here. Gets their first game analyzed. Get your brain analyzed. The chess psychologist. The chess shrink is in the house. We have Sparkle Horse Schumacher. Schumacher complained last week that I forgot to do his game, so we're going to do it first this week so as not to forget. Then we've got Acerbate, Mr. Slow, Master Game Submission, Victor Kupraychik against Geller, and Sun Prism versus Goo. Looks like we're a little slow on games today, so I'm hoping a couple more come in as we get moving. It is 6:42 p.m. Central European summertime here. I'm International Master William Pascal, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Welcome, everyone. So, without further ado, we're going to make up for bygones by going over this game that I did not go over last week. I have a mental block against analyzing games that I played. This was played by one of our regular contributors. Shall we call you guys contributors? Schumacher from Serbia. There he is. So you're here. Okay. So this is you. I wanted to do your game right away, so as not to forget. We're gonna analyze the game from your side to get proper perspective. So here we are. Okay, now I remember. See what it's like to be inside Schumacher's brain, you know. This is an interesting project. By the way, guys, I do recommend playing reverse chess where you play from the other side of the board. It's a very useful thing to do. So I was white. I played knight f3. Bijak is here. He played black. He played knight f6. Now white played g3, looking for some kind of reverse King's Indian. I was talking about this collection I have of Larsen's games, and it was just weird the way this one master who wrote a collection of Larsen's games called this the Reti. It's not a Reti. Whatever. It's just the King's Indian in reverse. It could become a ready, I guess, if white plays c4 and d5. You played d5. White plays bishop g2. And now you're making me have a flashback. You're making me have a flashback because now that I see this, you played this weird move. I think it's a little bit of a weird move. b6. I'm trying to remember. I had a game 2 years ago in an IM tournament in Budapest that I played in against this Belgian guy. And he also played something like that against me. And I also failed to really get an advantage and gave him a draw relatively quickly. I wonder if it was exactly b6. What else could it be? I've faced a number of different setups here. You know, even b5 is possible. So if you want to play what Keith Arkell called the speckled hen, Arkell would do this with white, you know, against the King's Indian Grunfeld type setups. If you could do it with white, you could try to do it with black. Also, another move that's commonly played is knight on bd7. When black threatens, this guy Peroshka Ishvan did this twice against me, and I lost one and I drew one. He's like a 2100 former FIDE master, but like a weak player for a FIDE master. Honestly, the second time I played him, I allowed him to play e5 because if you think about it logically, even if I allow you to play e5, you know, you can't play a very aggressive setup with your knight on d7. It's like a Pierce. So my thinking with white was I can allow black to play e5. Anyway, that's another setup you could try. E6 is standard. You could play b6, in the next couple of moves there. This is the most common thing. Something like castles, bishop e7. I do like king's Indian. Then, eventually you might do something like b6. But you're playing it right away on move 3, which invites danger on this diagonal. And I wonder, like, okay, how can I try to take advantage of this? And everyone played c4. What else is there besides c4? You can't meet c4 with c6. That looks, well, you could, but it looks sort of stupid. So I made a major mistake here by not playing c4 right away. Minor mistake. If I play c4 right away, what is your intention? See, you don't have this option, like in the game, to play d takes c4. So you would do like e6, right? See, the thing is, I can force you to take back with the pawn, more or less. I mean, I don't know about this. Maybe it's not totally bad for black. I would think d4. Wait, it's 4-0 here. I'm just wondering, do you think about your move order, or you're just making this shit up as you go? Normally, I would play c4. I decided not to necessarily try to punish you. Check this out. There's a game with Andrei Sokolov from 2001. And Sokolov, the French Russian grandmaster who was once in the candidates, of course, very strong player. Anthony Kostin. So some decent players. But I would expect e6, trying to maintain your center. Look, even Dreyev has a game here. So what's up with this? C takes D, E takes D, Oper and Dreyev 2022. But White should probably play d4. It's not the only option. Castles. I'm just curious what happened with the Dreyev game. Dreyev didn't play bishop e7. He played bishop b7. And White doesn't have to play d4. Could play d3. Felix Hazi Laszlo, 1994. All right. So anyway, let's not worry about this too much. I castled. Black plays bishop b7. Now we transpose to a lot more games. And I didn't try the critical move. Of course, I know that c4 is the most dynamic. Here you can take. It's not as bad. Edward Gutfeld, Jack Peters, 1995. All right. So I play b3. We're playing a ready now, for real. Black plays e6. I played c4. It looks like most players played bishop b2, but I don't really see anything wrong with c4. We transposed to a bunch of games. And now I was surprised. How much time did you spend on this move? You took here immediately, or you spent 5 seconds on this move? Moisenko played this twice. Halvax. It's a weird name. Fundamentally, I think this is a bad move. But it's very concrete. You fix the structure. You know exactly what's going to happen. There's not a lot of options for the other side. There's no tension, But, I mean, trading on c4, trading your central pawn away from the center, it's a kind of concession. Now, you did this knowingly, and Moisenko, who's a pretty solid grandmaster, apparently doesn't mind it either. But most people don't do that. This is a a slight inaccuracy, I would say. Takes, and now fix the structure. Interestingly, like c5 isn't obligatory here. You want to fix this pawn. You probably want to make sure nothing funny happens. You could say that you're preventing d4, but I'm not sure you actually are. I thought about playing d4. So, this seems like a no-brainer. You want to play the knight to c6 behind the pawn. But I just wondered, and both noticed that both games, the only strong grandmaster playing black here, Moisenko, played this like you did both times. But again, there's no big names here other than Moisenko. I'm just thinking, like, this is not, you're not obligated. If we played bishop e7, for example, it's interesting, no one played d4. But why? Why would no one play d4? It looks like a kind of critical move. No? I mean, let's look at the engine. It doesn't like d4. But why? So computer likes d4 c5 as a response. We could get hanging pawn type scenarios with e3 when my pawn on c4 is kind of weak. Or I can play like bishop e2 and let you isolate my pawn on c4. Rengao. So, most players don't feel comfortable doing d4 here because you can follow up with c5. If that's the case, then we could make an argument that you should wait for me to play d4. You don't have to play c5 right away. You're not obligated to play c5 right away. But the only other good move is this. Because if you go here, for example, now your knight can't get to the better square. Emery Tate, Andrew Karklins, U.S. Open, 2006. I played in that tournament. In Chicago. Ironically. But, why would Karklins put his knight on d7? Now the knight is less good. You need to put your knight on c6 so it can put pressure on the pawn on c4, for example. If Tate plays d4, you can play c5. Here's another Moisenko game. Check this out. This guy went nuts on him and played d5. It's an interesting try. E takes d5, knight h4. Whoa. Knight e5. Knight a3. What about knight c3? Oh, c4 is falling. So white didn't calculate this pawn sack very well. But what about just, e3 or something? I mean, the point is the knight has nowhere to go. Chess Zebra, what's up? Nice to see you. So Asterbait was quoting Reshevsky before the stream started. And I learned this from Reshevsky in the Art of Positional Play. He talks about this. In these hanging pawn type scenarios, the knight is badly placed on d7 because it has nowhere to go. This has literally nowhere to go. This is not what happened in the game, but I'm just explaining something important, That's why in this position you can play bishop e7. It's the only other useful move for black. Any other move doesn't make sense. So it's either c5 or bishop e7 followed by c5. You played c5, okay. Bishop e2 and now bishop e7. Again, knight should go to c6. You misplayed this. Possibly. Here. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think you misplayed this. I played the best move. This is already, by the way, now we're into close to main lines where black could have taken on c4 later. So we're seeing some high-level games. So Carlson, Yakovenko, Moisenko, Mendonca against Sargsyan, which is ironic because I told you guys during the game that I saw Galyash play the white side of this position against Mendonca in a tournament in Budapest about 5 years ago, Gayash was better with white, but it was a draw, I think. It was very similar to our game. But e3 is best by me to put the queen on e2. And now you castled, which is fine. I played queen e2. So we're book position. And see what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. What's up, Arsenal fan? I'm just a fish. But this is the idea. When you play this type of position with black, you put the knight on c6. So that you have a5, you have b4, you have pressure here, you have pressure here. You have more space for your pieces to move. You even have a square for your queen on d7 that you don't have otherwise. So this is a major inaccuracy. While it might not seem like one, guess what? You know, Michael Richter and Hasna Draglu are the only good players with black that have ever played this position. There's one Grandmaster in the whole list. Arsenal fan, let's calculate a couple moves. Right. This does nothing. It's a move. We're just trading pieces. You know, this helps black. Of course it's possible. And it might very well happen. But it's something dangerous for black. There's nothing dangerous for black there. Yeah, black wants to trade these pieces for these pieces. That's fine. That's fine. That's great. It's very hard for white to get an edge here, but I followed Gayash's plan with something like f4. Against Mendonca, he got the pawn smile going on. You know, something like this, this, this. Eventually, black had to play this. Actually, you know, black prevented knight e5, and in the Gayash game, Mendonca had something like, I don't know, rook f d1. I'm not sure that Gayash did that, but basically something like this happened with knight e1. And check it out. There's your favorite. You were mentioning Sabo Laszlo. So it looks like Gayash didn't, you know, invent this himself. Miki ended up playing something like f4 and getting this pawn smile with white. Well, I've seen him do it before. It wasn't just a game against Mendonca. He's done it against other people. So it looks like here we see a game from 1981 where Sabo Laszlo was white. He ended up putting his knight on e1. So queen e2, knight c6 is much better. This leaves black with no plan. Here, I guess your best bet is something like rook c8. There's another problem with knight d7 too. By not putting knight on c6, you make it easier for white to play a4, a5. So actually on this move, I think that black, or white rather, white should consider going a4 immediately. There is a possibility black goes a5. You know, I think that's why I didn't play it. I mean, I don't know. You could go back, you know, at some point, by the way. So this is an inaccuracy. How does a4 look? It's the number one move of the engine. Yeah, and check it out. Like, not one person played it in 21 games. I mean, d4 Arsenal fan. It's just, you got to be careful with those hanging pawns. I mean, it's very double-edged, and white has an advantage, like a small advantage without committing, you know. So white wants to keep the tension more. But this move has not been played, and I'm serious. Like, what happens if a5? So if a4 a5, knight a3, what about knight b8? How stupid is this? Knight b5, knight c6, rook a d1. Eventually we'll get your move in, but under better conditions. This seems to be the point. Now the computer wants to maybe play d4. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that easy. It's not that easy to see that white's advantage is so big. But of course the cave-in here with d5. d4 is a good plan, but I mean the flexibility that white could play it or not play it, could play it or not play it, you know. I think keeping it in reserve is best. This is a mistake. This is a normal move. He plays a normal move. The computer is still going to go for a4. I'll bet you. Yep. The very important structural idea. I just went over the exact same game. The exact same thing happened in Nimzovich game. I was just analyzing. Exact same thing. Where Nimzovich was I'm trying to remember what color he was. Yeah, he was black. Same thing. Oh, reversed. No, it was a5, a4. Yeah. I have to admit, though, I mean, this, you got to consider, now it's even worse, though, because that knight is going to hit b5 with tempo on the queen. So I didn't play this optimally. I didn't go for a4. And now after a6, I just played d3. So we're following Carlsen Amin. And now we left it. Oh, Magnus didn't play d3. Do you guys think Magnus played a4? Magnus either played a4 or rook a c1 against Basim Amin last year in a game. Well, at least I'm on the right side of a Magnus game, right? You guys think he played a4, the move we've been talking about? Yep. Because a5 can be played in any moment now. If black doesn't play a5, it's a5 for white. Dude's going to get crushed. Rook fd8. I'm surprised Magnus didn't play a5 right away. But I guess black can't prevent a5. He goes d3. Knight e1, the Galyash plan. So what happens if Magnus goes a5? It's the best move. Fuck. I'm telling you guys. It's a structural nightmare for black. You know? If I was Basim Amin, I'd been shitting my pants here waiting for a5 to happen. Actually, Magnus did the same thing against me. He did lobster pawns. Lobster crab. Anyways, all right, so we got the right ideas here. A6, I should have gone for a4, a5. I didn't do it. You don't really have any counterplay. Now we're following a couple other games. Rook a b1, which I borrowed from Galyash. The problem with Galyash, the Galyash Mendoka game that I'm talking about was Mendoka's knight was on c6. It wasn't on d7. So now you have a problem. And now here, you know, I had to check after the game to see if this move was like the engine move. When Schumacher played this so quickly, he's playing this whole game like instantaneously. I thought, oh God, this must be like engine. The computer hates it, you know. It doesn't like knight g4. But I was surprised because, you know, Schumacher's always using the engine to cheat and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I was surprised because you played it so fast. I thought this must be a good move. But Stockfish doesn't like I said, it doesn't control the center. But it's not terrible. I was just surprised by how fast you came up with this idea. Swapping pieces, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I could play d4. But I was honestly... I'm worried about this pawn. You know, it's Achilles' heel. But I think a tactician might go for d4. Because I take away the e5 square from him, you know. And I have tactics with like knight d5. So if you try, for example, takes, rook c8, pawn can't be defended. Then I have this now. Okay, maybe that's not good enough. You can just give me this and take on c4. Yeah. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's too fancy. Okay, so maybe I can't stop. I can't play d4 because c4 is too weak. Wow. Yeah, the computer's analyzing the line we looked at. Look at this. C takes d4, e takes d4. Rook a c8. Bam, bro. Bambergers. d5. So there's a lot going on, but when you think about it, this move that Schumacher played, it's not very fundamental. I thought, what does he want to do? Play like f5, trade pieces with knight e5? Okay, but he's leaving the center. He's leaving the knight away. He's losing control of these squares. This knight is helping to control fundamentally important central squares, and he's going knight g4 on a fishing expedition with his knight over there on g4. It's not protected. What is he doing over there? How does black have time for this? Very optimistic move. I'm lazy. h3 is lame, but I have to do something. What should I do with white here? I didn't see a plan. I think a4. There it is. The good old a4. Well, now I know. We've got it like drilled into my head. If black doesn't put their knight on c6, you fuck them with a4. It's very easy. Never going to forget that again. So h3, stupid move, knight e5. Trade pieces. And now I already was like not happy about exchanging so many pieces. I wanted to play f4 now. But there's an issue with my d3 pawn. So we have to calculate carefully. If I play f4, you trade on g2. I can't take with the queen because d3 hangs. So I'd have to take with the king. And then my king is a little bit funkadelic. But maybe it's not a big deal. For example, queen c6 check. Actually, I think you should go to b7. So that if e4, you can come back here and try to go into d4. This may have been better than what I did, though. So I think this is a mistake. And now he's threatening f3. Yeah, there's no reason for me to do this. I mean, this is a bad idea. I don't understand how Schumacher has so much time left. How is knight d2? It looks passive. I think that if you want to play knight d2, you're better off playing knight e1. Why play knight d2? Play knight e1 instead. Keep this protected. And you've got f4. Okay, I still have to deal with takes, and some kind of threat on the diagonal. But honestly, it's not that big a deal. I could play like f3 if I have to. Ultimately, I have the candy cane of death there. Knight e1 is definitely good. Knight d2 might be okay. But I think this makes more sense. We're not obstructing anything. The knight on d2 obstructs the rook a bit. It's better on e1 in this case. If my rook was on f1, then I probably wouldn't want to play it, but with the rook on d1. So takes, and yeah. And so I did this, and this tactically just doesn't work. So I blundered here, but Schumacher fucked up because he doesn't find the best move. See, he plays too fast. He has Arsenal fan disease. For every game he flags someone, he fucks up a winning position. It's like a 50% ratio of fucking up good positions to flagging people on the clock. If he had taken his time here, he would have compared the two different possibilities. Knight takes e3 or knight takes e4. They both work because this knight is loose. So he took this pawn, but it's not as big a deal. He took the side of my chain, you know. But if he had hit me in the middle, he would have broken up my chain completely. So this was a major mistake. Because I can survive after knight takes c4. It's like a flesh... This is a flesh wound. But if he had taken on d3, I'm totally screwed. Because there goes my whole structure, you know. This is much, much worse. Now I lose a pawn, and I have a weak pawn as well. Asterbate, what do we say about weak pawns? So I look at my games, you know, I looked at this game, not for the stream, for general purposes. Well, the game continuation is holdable, but this one I'm not so sure, because I have a pawn down and a weakness as well, you know. So in the game, I had this resource, knight takes c5, and I'm lucky. Bishop takes c5, d takes c4. So I don't lose a pawn. I just have a bad structure. I don't think he had another move there, by the way. Their knight takes c5. He has to take. I take back. Yeah, I have a weakness, but it's not so bad now. And my bishop is good, and I have some cheap threats with that. Queen g4. Here I was able to trade queens, and the computer says it's a draw now. Yeah. I'm just a tiny bit worse, but it's okay. Now, so I got really lucky. Had he played knight takes c3, I had no real recourse. I'm just a clear pawn down. Probably negative 1.5 after this. I was really playing brainless, brain dead. Knight takes c5, bishop takes c5, d takes c4, queen e4, and now here, and I save the end game. And then some weird stuff happened now, you know. You know, it's not clear how black should defend this. I have the h file, the possibility of playing g5. I think you should seriously consider maybe even f6. Even though you're putting your pawns on the same color as your bishop. This would stop g5 and stop your pressure on g7. I guess another move that you could consider is playing h6. He did that later, but it was a little different now. He plays king f8, I play g5. And then you totally bailed yourself out. This is a ballsy move. I think the computer had another solution for black, though. I can't remember what it was. Oh, bishop e7, maybe. Let's see. Just rook takes rook? Rook takes rook. No, it just plays rook a c8. So the computer doesn't panic. I was surprised when Schumacher did this. Because I thought he's risking losing the game. But it's not that bad. It's not really that bad. It's not that bad. He has a bad structure, he worsens his structure, and I can go in here. But he just has bishop e7. So he's okay still. It's not enough. Bishop here. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. That takes the pressure off of b6. And then bishop e7. And this should be a draw. Bishop d4. And here he could go wrong somehow. But this is best. b5. After b5, I have no way to get an advantage. And now I have to actually be careful. Takes. My pawn is annoying. On a2, it's annoying. And he's able to stick and fix his pawn on b4. So, rook d2, another good move. h5 is a very good move. Putting his pawns on the right color. All of his pawns are on the right color. 3 of my pawns are on the wrong color. King g2, f6, reasonable. Rook b2, and c b4. Now I'm like frozen. And now he's actually like threatening to trap my bishop with e5. So I have to play e4. And you know, even though one of his pawns is fixed on the wrong color, I can't really attack it. And he goes to open file. And I have to be careful here. Bishop e3, king f7, king f3, rook c4. And he ties me down to this pawn now. And I was lower on time. But I found this, bishop d2, preventing rook c3, bishop c5. This is another good move, by the way. Bishop c5. And now I could have just played bishop e3, but I went back, and he played f5, and that's a draw. So at this point, I don't know what you can do. If you want to try to win, I don't really think that either side can win. It's too drawish. But black had a little bit of an upper hand with that pawn wedged on b4. So e takes f5, bishop d2, and then king g6. I think, I don't know. I would probably want to go here. He went to g6 is fine, and then bishop e3. And now he pinned me. And I would just have played king f4. He offered a draw here. I think he offered a draw, but my intention was to play king f4, and the rook inning is a dead draw. He would probably exchange, and then like check, and then I go back, and it's a really dead draw. Anyway, not a bad game. I mean, I think that Schumacher probably played better than me overall. He was the only one with a serious advantage. I mean, I did have an advantage in the opening. Anyway, good analysis. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. Nice to see you. The legend, Mr. Coffee. Guys, where's Mr. Slow? We've got Victor Kuprejcik versus Yefim Geller on tap here. Oops. Just to remind everybody, I am going away on Sunday to my Adriatic vacation. So 10 days of vacation time, and that means that no simul on Sunday. We're doing the simul on Saturday instead. So, Mr. Coffee, everybody, just be aware. If you want to play, in the simul, I'm going to be out the following week completely. So, otherwise you'll miss 2 weeks, no simuls. Arsenal fan. Null fan. Can I get this game analyzed? No simul. G Souths, you haven't been playing. Just here for the English as a second language training. Can I have this analyzed, please? All right, study here. We're just here for the pizza. Can I get an album recommendation? What's Black Sabbath's best album? All right. Stefano against Arsenal fan. We're saving that for later. I've got Acerbate versus someone on tap here. What else we got? Mr. Slow, not in the house. Maybe Mr. Slow's on vacation. Guys, speaking of vacation, we've got Summer Tournament Fund, which expires in 20 days. Now just remember, I will be gone for 10 days. So we have like a week left of Summer Tournament Fund timing. Enough time for a week worth of donations. We got to raise $200 more for August. This donation bar is for August, my next tournament, which will be in Cicăreta, which is also known as Mercurea Ciuc. In Romanian, it's Mercurea Ciuc. It's Cicăreta in Hungarian. It's a small city in Transylvania, where I'm going to play in an open in the end of August. So this is to pay for that trip. My second vacation, basically, to Romania. My second vacation will be in the latter part of the second part of August. I'll go around with some family for like a week, and then be in this tournament at the end of August. All right. Anyway, enough of updates, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and gift sub. Within the last 12 hours, Minutemen are pretty good, if I had to pick from your list. All right. What do we got? Hello. My air conditioners make a lot of noise. Noisy. So we got Astrobate with white. Knight f3, b6. Now we can transfer to a. I'm gonna turn it off. It's not that hot. We can transfer to a Owen defense if you play e4 here. But the problem is, you won't have your most aggressive lines available. When black plays b6 against knight f3, if you play e4, it's still a good move. But black plays bishop b7, now we have to defend the pawn, which means, unless you want to play a King's Indian attack, you have to play knight c3. And now black has stuff like, well, even knight f6 looks kind of annoying. So I think the point is, against b6, knight f3, e4 isn't so good. There's also b5, which I beat Kushtar Shandor once. The only time I ever played this, I won with black. That's different, though. The pawn should be captured, probably. So Astrobate, you could try that against b5. So b6, c4, we've got in English. Bishop b7, and now d4. And now e6. Obviously, like g6 is possible too. Knight f6 is the most common move for black, which leaves black, two possible options about how to develop. It's more flexible. Of course, there's f5 if you want to be like Chernyshov or something. The Bird Larson in reverse doesn't have a very good reputation. But I'm surprised there's no Chernyshov games here. Some dude played this against Donchenko. I mean, that's just retarded. I like how both players who were black were lower rated. Einar Gossel, I had a lot of games with him on World Chess Network. I guess he doesn't play chess. I don't know. Norwegian Grandmaster. So d4, e6, and now, wow, Astrobate, you're getting like positional on us. a3, the Petrosian variation of the English defense. Now f5 is the main line. G6 hippo is appropriate. That's how I beat Onishuk. And otherwise, black can transpose to a Petrosian with knight f6. That's what he does here. So now we have a mainline Petrosian system. Astrobate, I don't think you've ever played the white side of Petrosian Queen's Indian in your life. How do you find yourself here? How does Astrobate start by playing knight f3 and find himself playing the white side of a very sophisticated kind of positional line? The a3 Petrosian system. And I'm very surprised now by this position. Bishop f4, I didn't even know that was a line. So it's like a hybrid Petrosian Miles variation. Look at the score. White has a very good result with this move. Astrobate did this in another game against the Dutch. Bishop b4 is no longer on the table. But I would assume that c5 is legit. Shanklin Dingley Wren. This could transpose to I don't know what. So anyway, bishop f4 is a weird move. Knight c3 is better. Is an offer of transition to Queen's Gambit declining Tartikover? That's an interesting question. Well, technically, there's a lot of similarity between the Queen's Gambit decline Tartikover and the Queen's Indian Petrosian variations. And d5 is a normal response after knight c3. So I don't think it depends on bishop f4 or not. It really just depends if black wants to play d5. It's black's main move here. So you can play bishop f4. Like, it's not a direct transposition, but it could transpose. But white, more commonly. Honestly, like, one thing, Arsenal fan, white doesn't usually play a3. So I think that move, this move has a reputation because Kasparov and Petrosian both played it. Obviously, Petrosian first. Some people call it the Kasparov variation because Gary played it a lot in the 80s. But obviously, after Petrosian, here we see even later Kasparov games. But the one thing about this move is, like, sometimes you kind of get the feeling like, doesn't this, like, sort of weaken white's, like, light squares a little bit there? Think about it. If you're playing the white side of a Tartikover, Queen's Gambit, like, you don't need to play a3. It's like, it's not really a move. So it feels like, I guess the moral of the story is that ultimately a3 is not so useful in these Queen's Gambit type of structures. And that's ultimately why d5 is considered to be black's number one move. After pawn takes pawn, Karpov was like the biggest Queen's Indian player in the last, let's say 40 years. I always went by his play, and he would normally take with a knight. But, you have to consider taking with the pawn too. Not easy to play these lines for black, though. Again, the structure, the sort of hanging pawn structure. Karyakin, as much as I dislike his political views, one of the better Queen's Indian players in the last 20 years. If you want to play the black side of the Queen's Indian, I think that Karyakin, Karpov, Liko, those guys. All right, so knight c3. Black played now a very, very risky line. I guess it's just bad. This isn't just risky. Mr. Slow made it. No stream for me today. I look at it later. Next Saturday, I'm also missing out on the simul. Well, there is no simul next Saturday. You mean this Saturday? You mean Saturday. This Saturday, not next Saturday. As in this Saturday. Like 2 days from now, Mr. Slow. Mr. Slow donated the super donation. Satanic +1. That's our first 6666 donation ever. We've had 666. No. Actually, we never had we had $6.66, I think. We never had 66.66. What about 66666? We can go for 5 digits. I know I'm getting kind of greedy. Wait, what did Nedog do? Maybe Nedog did a 666. He used to do 69. All right. Mr. Slow, the hero, he donated enough for 2 weeks. So we're already almost there now. 1366.66. We only have $123.34 to go. Thanks, Mr. Slow. So if you're meaning the following week, there's no simul. If you're meaning this Saturday, you're going to miss it. But it is a simul this Saturday. Next week, no simul. This week, Saturday. All right. So c5, big mistake. Now black's really playing a bad Benoni. So Asterbate doesn't pull any punches. Boom. He knows to do this. What a natural. Asterbate punking this guy out. How many times have I told Asterbate on the black side of the... Asterbate used to play the Owen defense too. Smash that bishop down. Smash it. Yeah. So, smash button. 6 smash buttons for 66666. That is a bad Benoni. Yeah, he plays the Benoni himself, and he's gotten bad Owen defenses with black, so he knows how bad it is to get your bishop smashed in like that. I would think like black's only chance here would be to try to play b5, to turn it into some kind of dubious version of the... So Ivan Farago has a game from 99. The pro, dude. Ivan was a good player. Like, rip Ivan, he died 2 years ago. Just a great, lifetime veteran, journeyman, grandmaster. Notice how Ivan handled this. I would think you got a lot of options. You can take on e6, then take on d5 with the pawn. You can play e4, probably. But Ivan just, he declined it with bishop g5. This is probably quite good, I would imagine. So black's in trouble. All right, his other option is to take, obviously, and that's what black does. It's a Benoni. It's a bad Benoni for black. So c takes d5. The reason it's a bad Benoni is this bishop is misplaced on b7. So best case scenario, that bishop's going to have to move again, like later on, because it's just going to get buried here. Black's best case scenario is the Benoni. Now, if he's lucky, white also has to lose a tempo with a4. No, truthfully, a3 isn't the most useful move in the world. So in the very best possible scenario, black ends up in a Benoni. Walter Brown with white in 1979. There's a Yakovenko. Whatever happened to Yakovenko? He's such a great player. You never see his name anymore. All right. So black tries to play a snake Benoni now. This is about the worst spot to try a snake Benoni I've ever seen. The only place to play the snake Benoni is when you can go bishop d6, bishop c7, bishop a5. And with the pawn on b6, this is not an option. So this is literally the world's worst snake Benoni. Well, maybe not that Nimzo you played in the correspondence game. Well, that's actually a really good snake Benoni. I got a really good snake Benoni. This is the opposite of our correspondence game. The worst possible snake Benoni for black with bishop d6. The only hope for this bishop is to go back where it came from. To be reborn on f8 so it can go to g6 later. So Asterbate... Here, Asterbate was careful. I mean, I think that this is good. You got to be careful, though, because he's going to be quick to the e-file. Bishop d3, rook e8, and you're out. And like I said, the bishop will go back. No, I would think like even e5 is strong. Knight takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, bishop takes h7, check, king takes. And queen takes d5 with a positional advantage to white. This happened to me against George Danner once. I had something like this with black. Ugh. I managed to survive, but... Playing d5 in Leningrad Nimzo. Well, you're supposed to play d5 in Leningrad Nimzo. That's the main line, yeah. I mean, that's right. I think if you don't play d5, it's kind of unusual. Yeah, Spassky was the best Leningrad Nimzo player. Leningrad Nimzo is underrated, and people don't know how to play against it because they rarely run into it. I've only faced it like twice, and so it's one of the variations that I had least practice against. Makes it a good system. My friend, the Weedmaster, played a lot of Leningrad Nimzos, and he always had good results. And another friend of ours, he taught to play it as well, Ken Tucker. So bishop d6, g3 is good, Asterbate. Castles, bishop g2, and now knight a6. And congratulations for castling. Look at Asterbate with a fundamental play. Knight h4, e4, So black tries this. He's trying to out acerbate. If you showed me this game, I would think like this is like an acerbate game with black, like 7 years ago. It looks like this is the proto acerbate playing black against the modern acerbate playing white. Protopus. Knight b5. Yeah, I mean we're going a little off center there. I don't think there's any reason to do that. Wait, that's too many natural moves. Although now I'm looking at like queen d4. You wanna go off on this tangent here with like knight b5? I mean, obviously bishop e7 loses a piece, but it's not so clear after, say, like bishop c5 before castling. I'm always proud of acerbate whenever he castles. Yeah, I mean, you could go on this. This would be a normal acerbate thing to do. You just fling your knights out to like b5 and g5. That's another proto acerbate way of playing. 99% of his games, you're just trying to encourage him to go back to his primordial like level. I'm glad he's not doing that. And on h6 we can play h4 and roll the dice. No, I'm sure you would like this, and I would like it maybe too, but I'm happy that Arsenal that acerbate controlled himself. He needs to be more controlled. Castles, and now c4. And this is interesting. How do we deal with that? We just ignore it. But there's a knight coming, in here. But anyway, e4 threatens to win a piece. So this is very strong. Black has to defend it, and I would assume rook e8. But still, after rook e1, we have to meet the threat anyway. So black probably has to do the Schumacher defense anyway at some point. Oh, you know what's really nasty? You have queen d4 now. Okay, it's going to get complicated. It's a face hugger. It is a face hugger. It is a face hugger. After knight b5. But in most face huggers, there's no bishop on b8. Bishop b8 is like it's an operable face hugger. Like we can operate and get it off. If there's ever been like a justification for a bad Snake Benoni, I guess to defend a7 so we can move our knight and try to play a6 or something like that. I just realized though there's going to be a double threat here. After e4, knight g4, maybe that's a good move. Because if you play rook e8, I have this threatening e5. And if you play knight c5 threatening to fork me, we have a number of options. This actually looks kind of scary. See, that's why I'm kind of pissed off about a3 in the Queen's Indian or in the Benoni. The goddamn b3 square. What are we gonna do about that? We can't play queen d4. Okay, queen d4 is out. We just get nailed by this knight c5 all the time. So after e4, this is a reasonable move by black, right? Any extreme suggestions here? Could you imagine doing this? Anyone? Anyone for bishop f4? It's tempting. I have to say this is kind of tempting. Knight fd2. You like that. That's the move of the day. It's the move of the day. But how does black answer bishop f4? I'm just curious. Because if you take, we have this giant, amoeba here. Okay, maybe he can play, like... I was just thinking if he tries to do anything crazy, white center is just too strong. This could get really ugly for black. The center is very strong. Let's see what the computer says. Oh man. Bishop f4 is not even on the radar. The engine doesn't like it. So acerbate played knight g5. Oh no. Alright, it's more justified than in most cases. Asterbate Arsenal fan gets this one. His materialistic instincts are right this time. 92 hits the knight. It hits c4. But the question is, what happens after knight e5? We're going to pull the trigger on f4. But what happens now? Does all hell break loose? After like bishop c5 check, king h1, knight takes, knight d3 rather. We're going to sack the exchange or what, bro? We're going to sack the exchange for the mother of all pawn chains. Check this out. This is begging to be played. Like knight takes c4, knight f2 check, takes. You know, and now we need like this and this. No. After this, you can play here, dude. Have fun with that, bro. I think that's over. This is over, man. Who cares that white's down the exchange? This is devastating. Black has to play queen b8 or something. Ugh. Yeah, this is crushing. Wow. So Asterbate went with the other option, knight g5. I also want to mention, a special mention goes out to knight h4, which is a normal Queen's Indian idea, because the f5 square is so juicy. Asterbate's aware of that square. But he has an obsession with this. You know, I'm surprised he didn't do the double. Because he does like that, you know. Under normal circumstances, he would have done the double knights on g5 and b5. He tried to start playing soundly and then went off. Knight g5, though, okay, you got this. You got queen out. You got the hit on g4. You're freeing the f pawn. What's the downside? Well, I mean, knight e5, you know, was the guy's main point. Dragonfly Hunter. It was a Petrosian Queen's Indian, but black turned it into a bad Snake Benoni. Maybe the worst Snake Benoni ever known to man. Yeah, black played c5 in the Petrosian Queen's Indian. So, without knowing what he was doing. But it's like white's like, I just want to check this. This is white's like first ever Petrosian Queen's Indian. I just want to see. Move 5, Asterbate, players, search, Asterbate, all set. No games found. This is your first ever. So check it out. No games says white. This is Asterbate's first ever Petrosian Queen's Indian on the white side. Kasparov Petrosian variation. Sun Prism. Sun Prism is in the list too. Got a game in there. So anyway, Asterbate, good stuff. You're playing a cool game. This is a little risky, but fine. And the dude just hung a piece. This is what always happens in all of Asterbate's games. I mean, it started with knight f3, b6, believe it or not. Not a lot of games will transpose to the Petrosian Queen's Indian from knight f3, b6. But that's how it started. Because Asterbate doesn't normally do d4 right away. But what usually happens in Asterbate's games is that at some point his opponent just hangs a piece. And this is again. The guy just totally missed queen takes g4. He's 1563. By the way, Asterbate 1562. What's the time control? Jesus Christ, your rating's too low. He's a sandbagger now. So knight d3, queen h5, threatening mate in 1. Very subtle. h6. We go back. Oh my god. You didn't preserve the knight now. So Astrobate makes the decision, the enlightened decision to sacrifice a piece here. And, if you really wanted to sacrifice a piece, yeah. I don't really see a way to do it. H4. Black's going to take the bishop and then take the knight on g5, and you don't have enough compensation. So this is just insane. You have to suck it up and move your knight back with a winning position. But you left your knight on g5. And there's two problems, this is hanging. The pawn on b2 is hanging, plus he can take your knight, And yeah, white has compensation. He's up a piece already, but why give him a piece back? This is stupid. So you should never give him the piece back here. Black does take. White takes. White still has I think that white still has a clear advantage. You're still just dominating, but you were up a piece and now you're not. So the dude is kind of hanging on after queen e8, it looks like. Gotta watch bishop c5. You don't have a concrete threat. Now we get in the second knight. Arsenal fan was making Shakespearean allusions to knight b5 earlier. No surprise, he was just keeping it in reserve. And now black makes a kind of dubious decision to give up the dark square bishop. But he was obviously looking at knight c7. So bishop c5, knight c7. Yeah, it's a problem. I guess he didn't like... Astrobate would have played bishop e8 if he was black, for sure. And it might be black's best move. I mean, this should be considered, no? And what's going on with bishop e5? Bishop e5, f4. Bishop takes b2. And, if you try to win the exchange, well, who cares at that point? Maybe, we have some counterplay. Check, king h1, queen c8. I'm not sure what's going on here. Screw the exchange. I don't think that black cares about losing that exchange too much. So this has really gotten out of control. Queen e5, and you just took. And that's a good piece. So I like your decision to take that. What's the final situation now? We've got a pawn up, two bishops, a strong center. The bishop on b7 is dead. Black has a good knight on d3, and that's it. The only thing that black has is this. Good knight on d3. f5 for black, breaking up the center. I agree. f5 may be a chance. To win the d5 pawn would be a huge boon for black, even if it risks his kingside slightly. So I like Astrobate's move, but I mean, it's not clear that this might be better. He didn't play passively like most people would play rook b1. And then what Arsenal fan is talking about, stuff like this, actually looks pretty good, to be fair. You can undermine the white center. He doesn't really want to play f3. This is going to get messy, after f5. So I like Astrobate's decision here. Another move that needs to be considered is radical f4, allowing check here, sack the exchange, check, takes. You can always play bishop f6. So this is it's one of those Nefedov moves. Bishop f6 and offer a draw. Total Nefedov. At least a draw, right? But I like taking the bishop. I don't know where to go. So you went to d2. This might be better, Acer. Honestly, you're cutting the c5 check out. If you want to play f4 or something, you take that away from black. Plus, you can put the bishop on d4. So I guess the question is what? Oh, It was a cheapo. You guys get it? He played this because he wants to play knight takes b2, bishop b4. It's a cheapo to win the exchange. You have to think about the game like Astrobate to realize what he's doing here. There's no immediate threat of bishop b4, but he chose to square it. It's the indirect way of defending the b2 pawn. That's why he did it. But it also, okay, it's not bad. So the point is, if you play bishop b3, black can take the pawn. And then bishop d4, knight d3, you're rolling this guy. But he is up. He's still in the game. All right, well, anyway, it's a good game. Bishop d2, a5, stopping, wow. Dude saw it. Bishop c3, this is looking good. No, black's going to have to try to trade queens just to stay alive. Obviously, that's what he did. And, I mean, this endgame is so bad for black that I think you have to legitimately consider this trade. He's down a pawn, you have two bishops, and his structure is smashed. So after queen takes queen, I would take the queen exchange. It's just, it's really bad for black. But I think that you have to be accurate. Maybe it's necessary to play a4 right away in order to stop that queenside from rolling, This looks lost for black, objectively. His position is so unhealthy. You need like a healthometer for chess positions, and black's position has like terminal cancer in this with this healthometer. This is terminal cancer. He has like 1 week to live. Black's position has 1 week to live here. Maximum. So I get not trading queens, but I think, it's fine to take the end game there. And now after queen e2, I was just wondering about h4 instead. This looks really good. I feel like nothing can really attack the queen on h4. Whereas on e2, you're opposite, rooks coming down here. So I feel like the queen is a little bit more secure. Nothing can attack it on a dark square. And we start rolling those central pawns. Okay, black would probably play b5. This is pretty good. He has this. By the way, nice idea. F4, queen b6 check. So if b5, we go bishop d4. And black still has that queenside Benoni majority and still has a chance. He could possibly queen a pawn. So that's why I recommend trading queens, and disabling his Benoni queenside majority. We'll have to be careful. If knight c5, we have to watch these squares. But I still think white's winning. All right, so queen e2 and then f6, which is a terrible move because it cuts off what I was just talking about. I understand why black played f6. But honestly, if we could get Arsenal's suggestion in, the problem is e5. Even this is worth considering. It's worth considering. Maybe black can try this. Bishop e4, go somewhere. It's not that simple. If you take this, opposite colored bishops, it's all bets are off. White could be overextended. Safer to trade queens there. Queen e2. So f5 may be the best move. It's up there. It's top 4. b5 is the best move. Rook a e8, rook f e8, or f5. b5 makes a lot of sense. All right, so f6 hesitates too much. This is a terrible move. Astrobate, honestly, queen c2 may be your worst move of this game. What the bleep are you doing? You know, your first thing should be here. Probably disable his queen side. Yeah, he's thinking about b3. Well, he could have done that right away. Yeah, b3. But b3 is also double-edged. Maybe black wakes up and plays bishop a6. Another good move is queen here. But we're going to have to watch for this thing. You know, but you have queen b6. Yeah, there again, bishop a6. Queen takes a5. Trying to trap your own queen. But I don't like what Astrobate did here at all. He moves his queen a second time. And then black plays the totally mental king f7. That's like resigning. This is, he's going to attack you down the h-file. Ooh, scary. That makes f4, e5 even more deadly, I would say. This just makes me want to play f4. Because this is like looking even stronger. King f7, I mean, admittedly, the guy doesn't have a lot of good moves. He's trying to go to the h-file. f4 looks good. Astrobate hesitates again. You've really been drifting without a plan for a number of moves now. Threatening to take c4, okay. Black has bishop a6. You're going to have to sack the exchange in some cases. Now rook h8, and he takes the pawn. All right. Black has some tactics. White could get mated here. The old rook takes h2. Oof. It's like a Jorge Husband Samor tactic fest. Knight e5, rook takes h2. So let's do knight e5. How close are we to something real here? This starts to look it could be for real. What is white going to do? This looks dangerous, dude. Apparently it's not enough, but it's close. Oh shit, Slaggy sees everything. Rook takes h2 is black's best move. Oh no. He has rook takes h2. This is the engine's number one continuation. Rook takes h2. I knew it, dude. This is scary. I would be like having hyperventilation and a heart attack if I was white in this position. I don't know if you can take that. There's also bishop a6 at the end. If you take, you get checked. You try to hide your king on g1. Then there's a check on h2. Black has bishop a6, so you get mated if you try to go to f1. So where did this all start to get unraveled? Well, you wasted like 3 tempi. The first thing you should have done is trade queens. Secondly, you should have played for f4. But definitely after this, you should have played for f4. And that would have stopped his knight e5 crap. No, the point is, okay, rook h8. But he's not really threatening anything without that knight going to e5 and g4. His only threat is the one move, the one move queen there. But if he does that, you always have h3. So, give black a move or two in a row, he can never checkmate you because your pawns like control all the squares. But I think f4 is important for white. Yeah, bishop a6 is going to happen in some positions, obviously. So queen takes c4. Bishop a6 is okay. I think that Astrobate would be happy to sack the exchange. So bishop a6 is a huge mistake. No? I like knight e5. Computer thinks it's okay. So you have to play knight e5 on the next move after bishop a6. Queen c7. Now he had to play knight e5. I preferred the knight e5 immediately. This defends d7. And obviously we have rook takes h2 coming up with mating attack. Rook h2 followed by blah, 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 blah. There's also rook h2, rook g2 check, queen takes e4. So black totally responded. Okay, natural move, king e8. Now Astrobate took the pawn, and Astrobate should be punished now. This looks bad. I mean, now we're talking about serious. The problem is there's no, he disconnected his rook. Yeah, knight e5 is so key. He protects his keys so rook's connected, and he's threatening rook takes h2. What about like h3? His second best move. I just analyzed a similar Nimzovich game where he sacked the exchange for a pawn. It was very similar to this. This is a beautiful position for white. Now, you're like impenetrable. I don't know whether to take with the king or the rook, but in either case, I think that white is clearly better. We don't mind giving up that rook for that bishop. But after king e8, his rooks are disconnected. That means this rook sacks might not even work now. So he goes queen h7, but that's fine. You played h4. You can also play h3. I think I like h3 better. Let's keep control of g4, you know. Why h4? Plus you give him g5. Okay, it probably doesn't work because this whole position is falling apart. But, I mean, move the pawn one square. e5, knight e5, d6. Right. Well, I don't think, you know, that's nice, but now we're threatening, maybe we're threatening e5. Yeah, I mean, if your idea is to take something on that diagonal, h4 is better, obviously. Because otherwise, like, we can't leave the bishop off of g2. If we play h3, we're not going to be able to do that. But I think either way is good. This is fine, you know, it's fine. h4 is fine. You give him g5 threats, but it's not enough. It's not enough for black to save the game here. He's lost. And now it's over. But he doesn't have... Oh, he has knight d6. Okay. Knight d6, e5. Ouch. Speaking of e5, Mr. Arsenal fan, that's fatal. That's super fatal. Yeah. So anyway, now we're just up material. Nice move. Acer didn't go with e5 check, winning the exchange. You can play e5. He did that. The attack is too strong. The two bishops are too strong. In all cases. Oof. Yeah, I like bishop e4 here. I don't know why. That's mate in two. Very deep. I see these tactics like a blink of an eye. It was stronger than the move before, but it's still good. All right, Asprey, nice game. Kind of. With a little help from your opponent. Mr. Slow's not here, so we're going to hold off on the Mr. Slow game. I'll do that next. Let's do a Sun Prism. Actually, I should do Mr. Slow while you guys are still here so you don't leave on me. So Mr. Slow can't do it all. Mr. Holiday. I'm on holiday. Starting on Sunday. Mr. Slow can't do it all. Don't forget to gift sub. Someone should gift sub to Rengawi. He's not a subscriber. What about Dr. What about the doctor? Dr. Chess Ibra. Is he a subscriber? Alright. Here's Sun Prism versus Goo. Goo U. Alright. Goo makes me think of Pingu. They're coming out with a new Pingu cartoon. They announced today the studio that makes Wallace and Gromit, Aardman, is going to make a new Pingu, even though they're not the original creators of Pingu. As an old Pingu fan, I'm very happy. Americans won't know what I'm talking about. Alright, e4, e6, d4, d5. So this is interesting. This is Sun Prism against the French defense. Sun Prism normally plays the French defense with black. Hi, kind of AFK. What'd I miss? Yeah, So Pingu's been around forever. I used to watch it with my kids, but with stop motion stuff, it's kind of cool. It takes a lot of work to put those together. So I was kind of nostalgic to see Ardman's going to try to rescue Pingu. D5. I want to see what Sun Prism does against the French because he's Mr. French with black. Knight C3. But Gu was a bad boy, and he played pawn takes pawn. Boo. Man, look at the top games. The top game ever with the Rubinstein is So Carlson 2017 draw. That's probably not a good idea. Sun Prism does play E4, yeah. Anand played it against Kasparov twice. And ironically, So has played it with black. But I think that the Rubinstein variation is a bad choice. You know, it takes like a genius to defend with black. George Meyer, you know, like Mr. Rubinstein French. You got to be kind of a little bit insane to torture yourself by playing like the Fort Knox or both the Fort Knox. The Fort Knox is probably worse, I think. Although there's some new ideas, maybe. Okay, I guess it's playable, but I mean, it just doesn't seem like why. You know, why play pawn takes pawn? I don't get it. You know, like clearly knight f6 is the most reliable. The winnower is very theoretical and tricky, and it's hard to play, but it's worth it. But I don't really see why anybody wants to play pawn takes pawn. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some other weird moves. Bishop e7, Nigel Short against the Tarash or whatever. But, I mean, you're still not giving up the center, at least. I mean, after bishop e7, e5, where's the knight going? You know, I mean, that's the problem. But it may not be that bad. Romanishin apparently played this in 1977. There's some ideas. All right, anyway, so takes, and then knight f6. The Rockport variation? The fuck is knight f6? So you get this from time to time. Knight f6 is Rockport. It's supposed to be better for white, but it's playable. So you see, the thing is, bishop g5 transposes to a burn variation, and that's not bad for black. So you have to take. Rockport is the only person. Alexander Ivanov managed to lose to Nakamura in 2006. Probably like lost on time or something. I mean, not easy to lose here with white, dude. Knight takes f6 check. You could play like g takes f. Yeah, that's what Hikaru did. This is how you beat Alexander Ivanov on time in like the US Championship or something. But it's garbage for black. Yeah. Rockport lost to Caruana. This is really bad. It's like worse than GF Caro probably. So they're supposed to take with the queen. Then you play knight f3. Then they play h6 or whatever to stop bishop g5, trapping your queen, and white is better. Next question. Bishop e3 makes sense because it would inhibit c5, and you could still castle either way. So let's see. Bishop d6. I looked at this a little bit. Let's see. Bishop d6. What if white wants to castle queenside? Why not like bishop d3? I would want to castle queenside and just blast black like frickin' Gligorich or something. Oh, you think you had this with black against me? Well, bishop d6. Maybe they do that on bishop d3 anyway. They do that anyway. So bishop d3 is more common, but I mean, the thing is, like, it looks like black would have c5. All right, so check this out. Garamian against Shirazi. Shirazi not the best role model for openings, though he does have some unique ideas. Yeah, I mean, you would just assume that like c5 is good for black, but maybe it's not clear. This Garamian guy is quite strong. Knight c6. And then white has to castle kingside. What happened here? C takes d4. Kudrin lost against Belarusov. Oh my god. So Shirazi did something else. What did he do? Bishop d7? No. I don't understand what he did. He played a6. I mean, who has time for a6? I don't know. So if bishop e3 can black play c5 anyway, why not? It's really bad, apparently. Wow. So you get smashed here with knight e5. Oh no. This is quite strong. Now black really does have to play a6. That's a good trick to know. So I kind of like this move. I kind of like this move better than bishop d3. Obviously. But anyway, all right. You transpose to a Bern variation. Kamran Shirazi play in the Boston area. Shirazi lived in New York. Shirazi lived in New York like between 79 and 89 or 90 or 90s. You know. I never saw him in Boston, but he probably played, you know, he might have played in one tournament. I don't know. He generally went to Philadelphia. Kamran would play in the Marshall, and he would play in Manhattan Chess Club, and he would play New York Opens, and he would play Philly tournaments. He's still around. You know, he lives in France. He's lived in France like as long as longer than I lived in Hungary. And he plays in, he's like 70. I mean, he still plays on here. You can see him. Yeah, he still plays here. I follow him. Because he's such an interesting player. You know, he always played crazy. He was a great blitz player. Bishop g5. Now, once I had this blitz session with him and Helgi Olofsson for money, I lost. I playing stronger players is challenging. I mean, Kamran's not stronger than me objectively, but he's stronger than me in blitz. You know, he's a pro in blitz. He was like a hustler. So bishop g5, okay, bishop e7, and now you're supposed to take with the bishop. You're supposed to take with the bishop, they take with the pawn, and now you've got all sorts of moves. I think queen d3 is interesting. This is the move that crushes black's structure. If black ever allows d5, bad things happen. So I'm trying to remember, but was it a6? Not in this position. There's no games here, which is weird. This appears to be okay, though. Well, queen d3 is kind of a rare move. I looked at that. Queen d2. There's all sorts of options. But anyway, yeah, exactly. It's like the Steiner Spanish on the other side of the board. But this is white's best line. It's the same principle. They give a very strong knight on e4. And black, Rubinstein was the master of this with black, though. You know, he created this system where he takes through the g-pawn. And his messed up structure is justified by the bishop pair. I think this is it's a legit defense for black. Maybe one of the best. And And if you notice, the score for black is okay. Very reasonable. But this is a mistake. I mean, people play like this because they want to draw. There's a lot of weak players who will do this on purpose to try to get draws against stronger players. So I don't think that's Sun Prism's, intention here. But basically, white doesn't have much after this. So bishop takes, queen takes, and white has a very, very, very tiny advantage. It's almost nothing. Knight f3, and now Gu played knight c6, which looks horrendous. This is like the last move in the world that I would want to play with black, because white's advantage really hinges on the d4 pawn, and you need to play first c5, or at least play b6. Putting pressure on the d4 pawn somehow is idea here. You have to trade that pawn to equalize completely. So there's a reason why only 3 people have played knight c6 in this position. RB Ramesh played it in 2002. I don't know why. And some other random players. So now, ironically, I guess black's hoping for bishop b5. The truth is, it might not be that bad. Black didn't lose any games. Black didn't lose any games in this position. So probably bishop b5 is a mistake, because you're doing what black wants. He would love for you to trade or something and make his bishop really strong. So black has to try to play for e5 or pressure on d4. But I don't like c3. We have to have a better move here. It's not bishop b5. Another idea for black is if you go bishop d3, they could have this at some point. That might be one of the reasons why Sun Prism decided to play c3. But you have to play fast here, because black will get an e5 and equalize. c3 looks like a very slow move. So I was thinking that's always dangerous. But maybe bishop c4, strange as it might seem. It's like doing bishop f4 in the maybe it's too slow though. Let's see, castles, and you're threatening rook d8. Yuri Balashov, Dreyev, 1995. We still have to find a way to defend that damn pawn. How are we going to defend the pawn? It looks like bishop c4 isn't enough. So I don't really see a solution, to be honest. It's not so bad for black. Well, you played a lame line. And to be fair, knight c6 isn't even that bad. Alright, c3. Now black played bishop d7. That doesn't make sense. He wants to castle queenside, I guess. But Ramesh move is better. When you play castles, you're threatening e5 immediately. Arsenal fan, knight e7 isn't very combative. You could try to do something like that. But let's try to just cleanly equalize here. Black's immediately threatening e5. What the hell is white going to do about it? If you play bishop e5, then bishop d7 is a good move. I don't understand how the hell black lost this position. Castles. A 2400, okay, beat a lower rated player. White won. Yeah, white does seem to end up with something there. Okay, maybe there's a point to this. So Ramesh played castles, and then white, what did they do? Agree to a draw? No. See, white played bishop e2. That's horrible. That's totally lame. And the other game, bishop e5, it must have been just agreed draw. It just stops there. That's weird. They're just agreeing draws. 2 of these games are agreed draws. Agreed draw and agreed draw. That's lame. So check this out, the one game. Bishop e5, bishop d7. This Bulgarian guy won. Castles. It's like white manages to keep a slight edge here. As long as he keeps control of e5, black doesn't have a break. So what happened in the game? You played c3, bishop d7. That's a mistake. And this is a mistake. So you have to play bishop b5. The threat is stronger than the execution. It's like a bluff. You're not actually going to take the knight. You're only going to take the knight if it like wins a pawn. I have a crazy idea though. No, Arsenal approved. Can I play e5? Can I look at bishop c4? Yeah, that wasn't my problem with bishop c4. The break isn't my problem. The problem is this. So if you play bishop c4, Balashov, castle, what do? We castled and then rook d8's coming. Andreev played e5, but I don't think that's necessary. Oh, I see. He didn't want to weaken f7. Well, that's what happened in the game. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. So e5, and Arsenal fan want to look at this. But it's not that much. It's nothing. Andreev just equalized. It's just a draw. Well, we shouldn't be trading pieces in the early stage. But this is interesting what happens. c3, bishop d7. Now, if you go here, what does black do? Do you guys think castle's queenside is sane? Not as sane as castle and kingside, right? All right, castle's kingside. Castles. Now rook fd8. Queen e2. And now the guy did the Arsenal fan defense. Knight e7. Though that's not the only move. Maybe black's setup is wrong. Maybe rook d8 is wrong. Castles. 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 Maybe he should go here. We're still going to run right into this. Are we? Rook e1. Rook e1. So rook fd8 is right. Queen e2 is right. Knight e7 is right. Bishop d3 is right. They played the best possible moves. Now you can do this Fort Knox type thing with bishop c6, but it's too late. Black has to play rook a8. This guy with black played perfectly, basically. Now white played like an engine. Rook a d1. And then Steinitz would love black's position. Right? Super passive. The best move is bishop a4. Is black threatening c5? I mean, white is a little bit better, and that's because black played the stupid knight c6. But anyway, bishop e2 looks too passive. Castles, and black can get in e5. So e5 right away looks like it equalizes, except for the fact that it doesn't. It loses to the bishop on d7. Okay, he has to defend this first, and now you got to try to stop e5. You could play queen b3 to, you know, disturb black by hitting the pawn there. So Sun Prism has to think a little bit, I think, prophylactically here. We want to prevent e5. If you play queen b3, you keep him busy. There's no good move. What, bishop c8? I mean, I guess he plays bishop c8. And then we do like rook e1. There's no rush. He's eventually going to have to play the Arsenal fan plan. And white is better. Knight a5, I doubt it. I don't know. It's not the Grunfeld. So black would be happy to draw. That's right. Rook e1 and then e5. But this is, you know, this is a disaster. I think Sun Prism playing too conservatively because his opponent may be higher rated or whatever, but I mean, it's just an online game. Sun Prism is a good player, and I don't think he should give a shit if his opponent is 2,200, 2,300. You know, on lichess, if they're not at least like 2,500, you have nothing to be afraid of. I feel like White played like way too conservatively, starting with bishop e2, but definitely here as well. This is two conservative moves in a row, and Black equalizes, takes, totally nothing for White now. So that was a huge mistake, and both sides have to be content with a draw here. I think the opening about me put you into simplification mode. No, I mean, the most important thing to chess, guys, in chess is evaluating positions. If you can evaluate a position, you understand what to do. So you have to understand whether you know the opening theory or not. Like when you get to this position, you have to appreciate that White has some advantage here. And if you can appreciate that White has an advantage here, then you can slowly build on that advantage and maybe play for a win. Yes, you traded pieces. And Kosic, my friend from Serbia, Montenegro, is like one of the biggest lovers of the Rubinstein French I've ever met. Dragan is just like, he loves it. But his theory is always like, change two pieces and she can't attack. And that's great, you know, if you want to like draw with Black against attacking players. But if you're White, it's a different story. Karpov has to try to win here with White. You know, the grinder player has to try to win here with White. We can't be like, oh, it's simplified, it's a draw. You're better. You have a better bishop. You have a better pawn on d4. That's all you need, you know. And so you have to try to squeeze Black. He played knight c6. This is a problem. If he can't get in e5, he can't equalize. So don't, you know, you're not being, I don't know, ambitious enough. After this, castles here, you still have a chance. But this move is too dogmatic. I mean, he put his rook opposite your queen. How can you prevent e5? Well, you can distract him. That's the only way I can see. And maybe it's not enough to gain an advantage, truthfully. Like, here he's still threatening e5, so how do you stop it now? Well, guess what? Now what's he going to do? You know, I'm feeling the Sergei Kudrin coming on. Not so easy for Black. Probably this, but then, okay, you've given up e5. White's better. If e5, sacking a pawn, maybe. Let's take a look at this. I think the c7 is an issue. So I grab, and it's not the routine rook b8, rook takes b2 crap. It's not so simple because rook b8, queen takes c7. Now this is hanging. If you take on b2, I'm taking your d7. You're taking here, but you're just down a clear pawn. So, I don't know, man. I mean, it looks like White's better. The engine does say it's possible. e5, queen takes b7, e takes d4, queen takes c7. So Arsenal's got something here. Wow. b4. That's another crazy-ass move. Wow. The computer found a better move than my queen b3. Yeah, Arsenal's right. Black has to go for e5, active defense. This is even stronger. Amazing move. Idea decoy. Drive away the knight from controlling e5. Wow. That's White's best. Damn, I missed b4 entirely. I just want to get my queen off of the line. But admittedly, the queen isn't really well placed on b3. It's decentralized. The queen would be better, in the middle somewhere, like e3, probably. Even c2 is a better square than b3 for the queen. So b4 is even stronger. Okay, so this is too routine. Black equalizes. Now you have a question. Do you want to roll the dice with something like d5? You have to consider this against anybody, because you're increasing the imbalance in the position. How good is d5? Computer thinks it's about equal. It's worth a shot, though. It looks like d5 is as good as anything. So, I mean, basically, here's your chance to choose what to do. You played safe. By the way, like, it might be more safe. I'm just going to say, like, I think you should maybe take with the knight first to avoid anything funky. Because after pawn takes pawn, he could try some weird shit like queen g6. Once in a while, we'll play a game where the two moves seem identical. But it's possible that black has more options here, to play it like a gambit or something. I had a game where that happened at the World Senior where my opponent did whichever, but he could have done the better way, which gave me less options. Instead, he gave me more options. This gives him more options. Better to take with a knight when he's like more likely forced to recapture twice. Minor point, but think about it. So queen takes c5, draw. Bishop f3, queen b5. I don't really like queen b5. And then objectively, I mean, I guess if you wanna force a trade of queens, you should play queen b3. That's actually better for white. I think that black. You're also threatening rookie e7 maybe. So he has b7 hanging. If he takes here, he's in trouble. This serious problem. So queen b3. Can he play like a6 or something? I mean, there's this. Maybe it's enough. But again, it could get sharp. Take, rook e7, rook d2. Like, all hell starts breaking loose. Rook takes here, rook takes here, rook takes here, and white's like up a pawn. It's not the most exciting game, that's fine. It's a game, and it's still interesting. But I think queen b3 looks strong. It's the best move, dude. This line I was just looking at. Queen b3, b6, exactly. Queen takes b5, bishop takes b5, rook e7. Okay, he has an equalizer. He has rook d7. This would have held. So if he's tempted into going here, you're better. Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting what happened. You played queen e2, which is not a bad move, obviously. Gives the opponent a chance to go queen b6, trying to keep the pieces on the board. Now rook d1. And now rook e8 allows rook takes d7. So he can't do that. He could go rook de8, the DEA. Bishop e6. No, it's important when you have an equal position not to try to like play for a draw. Because it's like the way you like will slowly give up little advantages. Like playing b3 here, for example. You start to put pawns on white squares, and you might end up getting ground down in an ending after something like a5. If your bishop ends up bad, where all his pawns are on the right color, be careful not to make concessions. a3, another minor concession. Maybe giving up the b3 square. This black gets mated, obviously, on the back rank. That's kind of funny. Take queen e8 mate. I've been doing my puzzles. So, rook d8, rook d8, rook d1. Okay, obviously playing for a draw, and it is a draw. But you do have two pawns hanging. So how do we defend both? He plays g6 because h6, is complicated, right? So this is a tricky problem. I think g6 is fine, but it does, he does have a lot of weaknesses on the dark square, so you can force a trade of queens, right? Why didn't you play this right away? Oh, you drop a pawn. No, you don't actually. So you could play check here, queen d4 check, takes, isolated pawn, probably doesn't matter here, and then b6, a3. Astrobate will explain to you about the isolated pawns. Astrobate, isolated pawns, what is it? If they fall in a forest and no one's there to pick them up, they don't get weak. What did we say? So this pawn doesn't matter because nothing can attack it. Like here, 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 here. It's like a force field is protecting it. Nobody can attack that pawn because your pawn's on the right color and, your bishop's guarding the light squares. So this would be an easy way to force a draw, but you're playing for the win. No. b3, I think that, it's totally equal. All right, this is a weird move by black, attacking your pawns. He should just play king g7. Black is not worse. Queen a6 is a bit weird. Check here, check here, check here, check. The black should be very happy for a draw. Instead, plays f6, and this is slightly weakening. I'm seeing dead people. But you've got the back rank issue too, so it's not so easy. Queen b4 is not enough because of your back rank weakness. So I think you ought to look at h4 very seriously. The question is, queen takes a2, how serious are your threats? And probably not enough. Because he's on b3 as well. It's too slow. Like here, queen takes b3, queen e7, check, bishop f7. And, you just have this. Not enough. Alright, so you had to defend. Check here, queen d2. Better than weakening your pawns. It's a draw. But I think I like h4. I think I like h4 better than g3 for some reason. I'm not sure why. Why do I like h4 better than g3? Okay, first of all, it gives me a square for my king. I could walk up in some endgames. It puts the pawns on the right color. You have vague threats of h5. And g3, just kind of weakens my white squares a little bit. It's not bad. You could say g3 extends the mobility of your bishop, or increases the mobility of your bishop. g3 is not bad. I still like h4. It also prevents him from playing g5, by the way. Like, this might not be a bad move for black, in all seriousness. Discouraging you from doing the said h4. And if you play h4 and he plays h5, he's fixing his pawns on the wrong color. A lot of people will auto do that, h5 response. So, all right, g3, c5. Not sure what black's doing with c5 other than weakening the d6 square. Doesn't seem like a very good move. So you have a chance to infiltrate now. It looks like queen d6 is virtually winning. He has a move, though. Ooh, this actually looks really nasty for black. I mean, are you winning after queen d6? What is he going to do? Because you're coming into e7. Bishop f7, queen e7. And now white's turning bishop d5. Black has queen d3, hitting the bishop. Then bishop c6, queen d1 check, king g2. Again, I would prefer h2. but you're threatening to play queen takes a7 now. So black plays like a5. And on bishop e8, black has queen d5 check. So c4, threatening bishop d5. Can black defend? I'm kind of thinking that the answer is no. King g8 just drops the f6 pawn. So it looks like it's lost. All because he played c5. There's something we're missing here. Oh, no. Yeah. Queen d6 is right. I mean, c5 is a terrible move. Queen d6 is right. What's the defense? King f7. So bishop f7 is playable. Bishop f7. What did we say? Queen e7. So instead of queen d3, he has to play king g8 right away. Okay. Your idea, but first. And now queen takes f6 isn't so clear. We can take the pawn on a2. So it's still, black's still holding. But after queen d6, bishop f7, queen c7, it's still probably a draw. But anyway, white had chances. Bishop d5, that's definitely a draw. This is definitely a draw. Only white can lose. Why did he not go to h6? Is that bad? Oh, there's perpetual. Okay. So it doesn't matter. You have h3. Maybe he had even thought, I would have thought, oh, I have h6. Now you have h3 check. I mean, that's suicide to go up, right? That's a good move. Yeah, it's a draw after that. So takes, check here, check here. Now you play check here. Oh, you win the pawn. Oh, no. You can't take that. He went up. So he can go back. That's a draw. He went up. Oh, no. Endgame mating pattern. Puzzles. Some Prison, do some endgame puzzles. Those are my favorites. Queen endgame puzzles. Oh, man. Suicide. Queen f8 check. Is white winning? I had a game like this against Robert Marcus. Some weird thing where my king had to walk up a few years ago. You definitely have to think about this. I mean, maybe g5 is even better than h5. Because if you go to g5, you can go to f5 or g4. It seems counterintuitive, but it might be safer to go to g5. You have two flight squares, f5 and g4. If you go to h5, you know, you're only really threatening to go to g4. So h5 is like self-mate. That's kind of funny. Like this probably saves his ass. Ironically. Active king. White's not winning here. Yeah, h4, but it's nothing. Maybe black's winning. He's going to pull a Nigel Short on you. Oh, you think like takes on f6? I go to f5. If you're afraid of this, this is obviously not recommended. You know, I can just go to f5. Yeah, but what does queen c8 do? I mean, I'm out, man. I'm out and about. I'm a man about town. He's serious now? I'm not getting mated anymore. I'm coming to a theater near you, And this is no longer about getting mated. I don't know. But it's very instructive, actually, that black has king g5. So king h5 is also a draw. But the engine prefers king g5. And so h4 check, yeah. I wanted to play king g4, but it loses to queen f6. This loses. It's so sick. And king f5 is a draw. And your move is right. And king e4 is right. And it's still a draw, Ars. It's still a draw. Queen b7 check. King d3. Black ends up like giving white perpetual. Oh, this is very sharp, actually. It could be a race. Queen b1 check. King g2. King takes c3. Who knows what's happening here? It does look like there's a check on e4. Here, check. King h2. Very sharp. All right, anyway. So king h5 is apparently still okay. Amazing. I thought that white was in trouble. I mean, black was in trouble. Queen takes f6. Yeah, he might not see queen h4 mate. Kind of a funny mate. I mean, I see g5 as a mate. I don't see h4 as a mate that often. So he has queen b1 check. Oh my god, he missed it. So queen b1 check. King here. Oh, he has outside pawn too. Queen e4 check. He can't trade queens. Can he? Can white maybe play this for a win? No. Oh my god. Dude, that's brutal. Wow. Boom. I stole it from the engine. This wins immediately. Wow. That's a beautiful move. I didn't even see it. I mean, I figured white might be losing somehow, but... So you have no option. After queen b1 check, you have to take the draw. Because this, you could... Yeah, you're gonna lose here as well because of queen f5. I assume. Still a draw. Wow. Anyway, no winning chances. I mean, can you? No, you can't. You could go here, check, here, and here. That's a very good continuation. This is funny though. He hung mate in one. After queen takes b3, queen h4 mate. It is kind of a weird mate, you know. See, that doesn't happen if you play king g5. See, if you played king g5, white would have played h4 check, and now you're never going to get mated with your king on h4 or whatever. I mean, you're never going to get mated by queen on h4 check if a pawn's on h4. Black's safer. All right, that was fun. It was cool. I'm going to do Arsenal fan. Do you want to do your game, or do you want to do Mr. Slow's game? It's up to you. I know you guys are going to leave the minute your games are done. You just come here for our own games, and then we leave. Stamp your clock. Stamp the clock. Stamp your ticket in the clock. Up to me. All right, let's do your game. Mr. Slow's not here. All right, let's do Mr. Slow's game then. So this is Geller with black. Every game's been a Spanish so far. I mean, Geller played a lot of decisive games we're seeing with both colors in the Spanish. This is interesting, though, because it's a whirl. So Kuprejcik, this is played in 1969, and Kuprejcik died just in the last 10 years. He wasn't that old. Kuprejcik, I think, was like in his 70s. Obviously, he had to be younger than Geller. So, very young here when he was playing Geller in 1969. Obviously, his career would continue far beyond where Geller left off. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop E5, A6, and now bishop A4, knight F6, and now queen E2. That's it's actually I think a mistake. The lichess, Morphy defense, Warmald attack. It's supposed to be Waral, but a lot of people make this mistake. Yeah, Waral. It's a different player. You know, Warmald is a player too, but I think that the definitive name for this line is Waral attack. You can't trust what you read on Chessopedia. Unfortunately, like, you know, there are no legal copyrights on chess opening names, so I'm used to hearing it in the books as Waral attack from reliable sources. It sounds better than Warmald. Anyway, so it's an interesting line. You know, white defends the pawn, but what defines this system? White will often try to play like c3 and go for rook d1 and d4. So you can put the rook on d1 rather than on e1, the traditional Lepez square. But bringing the queen to e2 has its disadvantages. My experience is that primary problem is that black will line up a rook on e8 opposite the queen on e2. And that's where things become kind of awkward for white. The second thing is black getting in d5 seems to happen in some of the main variations before white can play. Interesting suggestion. I'm losing my voice. We'll check. The other thing that happens is that black will get in d5 before white plays d4. And then typically black will play like b5, get in d5. White just allows it and then allows black to have the break d5, and white just absorbs it. And typically, like, black will often even go like d5, d4 sometimes. So it's almost like white's playing like a defensive sort of setup where he's playing in a hyper modern way, like allowing black to maybe even overextend himself with d4. It's very complex. I think strategically very complex. Tivyakov was the guy who was like a big expert for white. So you see here an Anand and a Spidler. So Adams has some games. Tivyakov played it against Magnus. But I didn't know that Adams played this so much. So he's played it multiple times, including against Karpov. Mostly Tivyakov and a few Adams thrown in. So if knight d4, you would think like this would be worse than the typical birds, because I'm just hammering you with e5 right away. No, but maybe not. I mean, you know, the queen would be able to come out to like g4 anyway. Maybe we don't get that big of an advantage from this. I mean, the difference would be like queen e4 maybe. I mean, on knight d4, white doesn't have any alternatives. White has to take. White's not obligated to play e5 either. But, okay, one thing about this is nice that if you try to play this like a bird, black can't attempt to do d5. It's not an option. So I guess here, you know, is a little bit of a quandary for like what's black going to do? Like, even if you just castle, what is black going to do? He can't play d5. If you move the bishop, it seems like you're going to weaken g7. So let's say bishop e7, e5, knight d5. Okay, maybe this is not so bad. This is not so clear. Let's look at e5. e5, knight d5, queen e4, knight b6. Queen takes d4, c5. What do you guys think? So this is weird. Yeah, there's no games. Damn, dude. There's no games with knight d4. But white has no option. He has to take. This is funny. So we'll find games on lichess. You know, Arsenal fan, it appears it's not that bad for black. Our main line is e5, knight d5, and now apparently queen e4 isn't that good because of knight b6. So it's playable. The computer thinks that white is slightly better. And you could also just not play e5 or something like d3. But anyway, to answer your question, it's a strange move. Let's check lichess. Yeah, it has been played. It's been played in 1,500 games. Knight d4, knight d4. He takes d4. Let's see if anyone good played this. There's one 2,600 blitz player. And then what? In a white, they'll typically play e5, knight d5. And this one game where it's 2,600s play each other in a blitz game. White won. Do you think he went for queen e4? It did. Miki train against Teli Tamash. They could be Hungarians. Knight b6. Yep. Queen takes d4. And now, as I suggested, c5 is interesting. But in the game, Teli Tamash probably took this. I was going to suggest bishop c5 as a joke. This is not the best idea. So the best move for black is c5. Yeah, you've invented a new opening, Arsenal fan. Sort of. Well, you brought it to our attention anyway. This is strong. Black missed it in that game. All right, anyway. So queen e2, and now black's main move is b5. This is universally known. But Geller doesn't play b5. Now, there's a question about this. And the question is delayed exchange on c6. So, what's the downside of bishop e7? Now, by the way, can you play bishop c5? The answer is yes. Bishop c5 has been played by some strong players. No, but there's always this delayed exchange on c6. Bishop takes c6. Some good games here. Multiple games between Tibiakov and Ivan Sokolov. Well, I mean, that raises another interesting question. Like, you know, could you play, like, for example, queen e2 against the classical? a6, bishop a4, we transpose. All right, anyway. So, bishop e7. Now, I would expect bishop takes c6 a lot. Gufeld Korchnoi, 1975. But, I mean, Kuprejcik, you know, isn't the kind of player to play bishop takes c6. So maybe this is partially like Geller. Well, okay, in those days, Kuprejcik was young, and he didn't have that kind of reputation that he later did. He's just another young master to Geller. But maybe stylistically, there was Gufeld game, yeah. So bishop e7. There's no Russian grandmasters that like didn't play the Roy Lopez, right? No Soviet grandmasters, I should say. It's the most important opening to the Soviet school of chess. C3, B5. Now he plays it anyway. And so we'll transpose. Bishop E3. And now the point is you don't play D6 because you want a castle. So castles, castles, no. Normally white castles. But D4 has a better score here. Well, actually, this makes a lot of sense, and it makes you wonder about the move order. Because if black had played B5 right away, he'd still... You know, here you have bishop C5, which is effectively like it's like a Archangelsk variation. You have a lot of things, obviously. This would transpose. Okay, C3, castles. So this is important. This move D4 is more aggressive than castles. See, if you castle, you will allow black to play D5. This is established as a main line. And that's what I always like with white. I was not sure about how to handle these types of positions. This is the way that Tivyakov, a lot of players would play with white. It's almost like white is black and black is white. With that central, like black has the two ideal pawns on D5, and you don't want to exchange pawns. Oftentimes black will play D4. Here's short Karpov, 1992. But it seems weird to play D4 too. Rook E8, like I was talking about. This is the face-off that black wants. So anyway, all right. More aggressive move by Kupraychik, D4 immediately. Now what does black do? You give up the center? Do you give up the center here? See, the rooks, he's going to castle and play for rook D1, I would assume. So, don't know what to do. Okay, this isn't the move order in the game. It was C3, B5 here, castles, D4. Okay, now D6, and now I expected castles from white with the idea of rook D1. But the problem is, does black have bishop G4? And how good is it, you know? Does white need to take a timeout to play H3? We can see H3 has a terrible score in this position. And it's slow. So, that's not surprising at all. But I'm just not a fan of what Kupraychik does now. He exchanges pawns. You need a reason to do that, according to the great Agard, guardian of chess knowledge, the greatest chess trainer who ever lived. No, seriously, why not castle? That's the question. So bishop G4, okay. So here we go. It's Nigel Short versus Anatoly Karpov, 1992. Rook D1, but BFD, right? I mean, I'm sure Karpov didn't lose because of the opening. What do we do now? People have played Queen E8. Queen B8 has a good score. I love that move. You gotta love this move. Queen is really, it's really controlling the center from B8. These are not the biggest names playing black here, but some decent players. Queen E8 was played by Beliavsky, Swat, Igor. What about Queen C8? Tomaszewski, Amashi, Kamsky. Look at that. That's pretty solid. Pankratov, Vityugov. Getting the queen off of D8 is a good idea. Otherwise, you have to abandon your center with pawn takes pawn. This is what happened in short Karpov, and then you play D5. It's a transferal of structure. But you can see how this could go south for black. The score isn't that good. Alright, anyway. So, in our game, Kuprechi plays this lame move, pawn takes pawn. That's so lame, dude. You should have your chess license taken away from you for this move. Where's my no button? I gotta find my buttons. Oh man, I gotta find the buttons. Wait a second. No, 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 no. Oh my god. Totally forgot. I think it needs a new battery. Yes, it needs a new battery. Shit. This like slowed down. This is such a bad move, bro. So what do we do with black? We've got to beat this young punk, and he's trying to like play this disgusting move that simplifies and trades off his strong point in the center. Kuprejcik wasn't Kuprejcik yet, apparently in 69? He spent too much time at Woodstock smoking weed before this game. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do pawn takes pawn. But the question is, how does black play for a win? Fundamentally, I like pawn takes. You know what's really shocking is that there's no other games where this was played. I mean, there are somewhere, but they're not recorded in the lichess database. Oh, you're looking at knight a5. Well, that's an interesting move, maybe on the previous position. You know what? If you want to look at knight a5, like castles, bishop g4, rook d1, hey, maybe they're knight a5. Oh, there's only one game. Gergovich. Wow, Gergovich won with black. Bro, how does this even work? That's insane. That's a pawn sack. D takes e5. Knight takes b3. A takes b3. Knight d7. This guy's a madman. Gergovich sacking a pawn. Wow, this is actually playable. Bro, bishop f4? That's insane. I don't know if you met knight a5 in that position, but that's really an interesting suggestion. White could also just chicken out with bishop c2. I think that's a safe way to play it. You know, nothing wrong with bishop c2. Absolutely. Absolutely nothing wrong with bishop there. Then black will probably play knight d7. All right, anyway. Anyways, we have d takes e5, the disgusting move. So black plays knight takes. Trading pieces is comfortable for us. White has a better structure momentarily. This happens sometimes in the King's Indian, in openings like Tory attack, where you have a choice between taking with the Pierts, taking with the knight, taking with the pawn, taking with the knight, taking with the pawn. On paper, the pawn on e4 gives white an advantage. But can you just maintain the status quo? So things like this, you know, it's probably too slow. You're going to get like nailed in the center. And I think that white could consider, for example, castling, not taking on e5 is what I'm trying to say. Can white play in a way that doesn't... You meant knight a5 instead of queen c8. Oh. Knight e5 instead of queen c8. Isn't that what I just looked at? Bro. We said bishop g4. We said d6, castles, bishop g4, rook d1, and then we looked at all these different moves. Queen b8, queen e8, you know, queen c8. That's what I just looked at. Knight a5 instead of queen c8. That's what we just looked at. So I don't know what you mean there, but back to the game. So white plays knight takes e5. But this is like, okay, you're lame and you're playing for a draw with white against one of the most famous players in the 50s and 60s. Lame. You are lame. The question is, does white have an alternative to playing knight takes e5? Is there anything better? And the answer is no. So white is already screwed up. He's playing like a noob. And now he plays a4. So how should black handle a4? Got a lot of options. Bishop d7, bishop b7, rook b8. That looks kind of weak. I don't like just abandoning the a file here. So I would say bishop b7, bishop d7. I don't know about inflexible pawn push. So here's what happens. Bishop e7, attacking e4, which is really important, right? White doesn't want to lose that pawn. Now, I expected Kuprejcik to play knight d2 here. Why would white not play knight d2? Is maybe a good question. So he plays f3, which is very good against the you know, if you're on the white side of a Tory attack or something, but this looks like suicide. First of all, there's knight h5. Maybe that's not so great because of g3. Okay. They'll give me like one more move with king h8 and f5, and I think we're going to be having a party in a minute. But probably bishop c5. I mean, damn, dude. Is white going to take this pawn? Seriously? Because I am thinking about sacking a piece here. This looks very dangerous for white. Plays f3. And so I'm thinking bishop c5. But maybe it's too optimistic. That's a strong candidate for a blitz game. Preventing white from castling. Geller's move is a little surprising. It appears slightly passive. Not a bad move by any standards. But I was thinking go for the jugular. Of course, white could just try to swap pieces like bishop e3. But I think black is still better here. And we might have tactics. In any case, black is better. I guess it's not that much. How big is our advantage? Bishop c5, yes. Bishop e3 is best. If he tries to take this pawn, we take back. Rook takes a8. Queen takes a8. And then queen takes b5. I thought we had this sack, but apparently it's not so sound. This is not good enough. Black has to find queen a7. And that's a really good line. So anyway, I think that's fairly obvious. I thought knight d2 was safer than playing f3, though. There's also bishop c2. But black's slightly better in all lines. So f3 weakening the king side. Knight d7, bishop e3, and now knight to c5, bishop c2. What's up with a4? My first thought is obvious here. I mean, we take out white's bishop, but the structure is pretty compromised. So he just plays bishop c6. This is cool. Threatening to take the pawn. White still hasn't castled. So now he plays a5. Bro. Such a beautiful game, b4. This is such a beautiful move. So we have knight e6 here and here. If you try to take it. Damn, dude. And bishop to b5. and rook b8, and all this force. Castles, rook b8, rook d1, queen c8, knight d2. It looks like white is sort of surviving. If you play b3, for example, it gets very closed. So he trades and penetrates the 7th. White is worse, but perhaps white can try to hang on here. What about just defending the bishop? I mean, what if you play there? I don't understand what Kuprejcik did now. He plays like queen f2, kind of a weird move. If we just protect the bishop, then we threaten here. So I guess we go bishop e5, and we'll force white to go here anyway. But what's going on there? Black's still better, but is it winning? Not clear. Clearly better. All right. So white plays this interesting move, queen f2, take, take, and then queen e6. So here, I mean, optically it looks not that bad, but the pawns are overextended more than black. So ultimately Geller ends up with this like very, very small, very, very small advantage. The knight doesn't have a good outpost. c3 is hanging. Okay, not really a tactical game. Plays this, and now rook d8. Bishop stronger than knight. I was wondering about knight b3 here, to try to get the knight to c5. I mean, the biggest problem is that white doesn't have an outpost for that knight. How bad is something like knight b3? I mean, I know that black is better. We have bishop versus knight. Dude doesn't have an outpost. His king is, like, not safe on the second. I mean, on something like knight b3, I was just wondering, I mean, I've got to watch back rank. I don't know what we're doing on knight b3. Trading rooks, what does it do, though, you know? We still got to watch our back rank. Black's slightly better, of course. Bishop e5, knight c5, rook e2. Still can't take the knight because of back rank mate. Oh, you can take it because it's check. Oh, fuck. That's a strong move. It's a check. So this looks like a problem. If we play knight b3, we trade rooks, and then play bishop b5. Still, I mean, white could play like queen c5. This isn't 100% clear. I think that black is probably winning though. Take, make back rank luft. F6 or something. Black is clearly better. That particular line is a draw though. Check and there. I got to be careful how I do this. Okay, king f8, check, king here. White is slightly worse, but black is not 100% winning. So I'm not getting this. It does look like an option. Knight b3, rook takes rook, bishop a4. Bishop a4. Why is that so much stronger? Wow. Bishop a4, knight c5, rook takes g2 check. king takes g2, bishop takes d1 is not enough. This is not enough. Yeah, it's not that easy. I mean, but anyway, this is apparently better. But I mean, my problem is like that knight isn't stable on c4. It's not really an outpost. It's not defended by anything. And it can be easily attacked by bishop e5. I like the knight on c5 better because it's, you know, defended by something. So on c4, rook takes rook, rook takes rook, black makes luft, so now back rank, no back ranks. And white doesn't really have any active moves. Queen d3, rook a2, check. Okay, so what is black threatening exactly? I mean, bishop b5? Bishop b5 looks like the knight is trapped. The knight will have to go to d2. So we have a lot of things here. Bishop b5 forcing the knight to a passive square. And it's not an outpost. But it looks like white is just about hanging on. The computer's line is plus 0.9, king h1, a move that nobody would ever play. And then bishop a4. So queen d3 is like a mistake. Queen c5 check. King h1. Now obviously not allowing bishop e5 here. Okay, so bishop b5 check and there's no problem. So he goes to a4. This reminds me a little bit of like Magnus playing black or something here, you know. It has a Magnus sort of feel. More Magnus than Geller. Queen f2 is obviously a try. How the hell does white defend that? Knight e3? Knight e3, rook e2. I can't imagine this can be saved. So queen f2, does that mean we have to play rook g1? It's still like, how does black win? And we're so close. All we need is like one more straw to break the camel's back. But it's not quite there. So what would you guys play? Bishop e8. Well, I mean, king h7 would be a way of prepping bishop e5. I mean, our rook's hanging, though. We can't do that. Okay. Our rook's hanging. Yeah, rook's hanging. So we have to play something. Queen f2, rook g1, and you're saying like bishop e8 here? Well, I would think like king h7. But white's hanging on, basically. Maybe not. Every time I think he's hanging on, he's not hanging on. Still, he's hanging on. Bishop b5, queen c5, rook here. Game over. Bishops are stronger than knights. I think that Kuprejcik learned that in this game. So, bishop a4, queen d8 check, king h7. So he hung a piece here, thinking there was perpetual. I wonder if you could go back as rook takes g2 looks too strong. I mean, if, for example, if you tried to go back, as stupid as that looks, I have lots of moves. Rook takes here. Rook takes here. You know, and then we're just like taking on d1. You know, even this. Queen takes e5, queen takes d1, queen takes a5 is a pawn up, queen endgame. So my question would be, like, at the end, could he go back? Could he go back to defend the knight? Disappointing finish. Well, okay, the knight's hanging. He thought he had queen c8, it doesn't work. But why? Because f7's defended. That's a stupid finish. Yeah, he blundered. He resigned because, okay, queen c8, queen c4, queen f5 check, g6. He thought he had a perpetual. Probably very bad time pressure. So, but the question is there a move here at all for white? After queen d8 check, can he play knight d2? I mean, everything looks strong. Well, I mean, rook takes c3 is winning, but not, like, immediately, is it? We are threatening bishop takes d4. Now you could do your perpetual thing, though. For example, like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, no, queen f8, right. All right. Yeah, so he has to move the rook somewhere, like rook g1. But it's still a game. Not a very good one, admittedly. Yeah, that's a disappointing finish. Okay, queen takes c4. He wins a piece. Let's just check there wasn't a defense. So queen d3, rook a2, rook g1, and then bishop b5. So eventually we get pinned. We get into an eternal pin after queen d3. Queen e3 doesn't solve the problem. We can't stop eternal pin from happening. That's the point. All right, Arsenal fan. Last game for today. It's been a long one. Not really, but it sounds good. All right, Arsenal fan is white. Thanks, Mr. Slow, who's not here. Thanks for not being here. No, thanks for your donation, 6666. Roots 66. It's Arsenal fan against Stefano from the tournament on Tuesday. Is it from this week? It is. All right. So this is from this week. Is everybody still here ready for this? The highlight of the day. Arsenal fan. My personal hero. All right. E4, C5. Now this guy played this Sicilian, right? Or against me too. I think he mostly plays the Sicilian. Was it Sveshnikov as well? So knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. I must have played the Rosslimo against him too. Well, you're not... Any credible player will know what to do a little bit against the Rosslimo, but they're going to know less, for sure. You know, if you want to get them out of book, you're going to have to play like knight a3 or something. Really get them out of book. But, yeah. Let me just see something here. Oh, never mind. All right, so bishop b5, g6. So at least he knows that. That's a good move. The most respected response to bishop b5. Well, I mean, it's hard, actually, it's hard to say. I mean, it's either e6 or g6 are the two top moves. My preferred line is third. You know, knight f6 isn't bad either, to be fair. And this has seen a lot of fairly high-level support, too. That move is kind of underappreciated at the lower levels, I think. I see this from grandmasters, but not so much from average players. G6 is main line, and so you played C3. Yeah, I mean here you have this huge variation. I've been playing bishop takes C6 in blitz games and stuff, but bishop takes C6 is not that justified. Obviously, castles in C3 are more flexible. So now, but the only thing is with C3, I would say that strategically speaking, you're usually not going to exchange on C6 because you weaken your light squares. You have to be more careful about giving that bishop up. Although it does happen in some of the lines, I think you need to be conscious that this is the type of structure where you don't necessarily want to trade on C6. Black makes a very bad move. Now, this is typical. Like, he plays A6. It's horrible, It's just, you might as well play A6 on the previous move. Looking at the list of games here, it's really shocking. Nidich played it. Salgado Lopez played it. Some other players who are like decent. But I mean, that move it's hard to believe, bro, that A6 can be a good move. Now, having said that, there's a reason. The idea is what I was talking about. Because you played C3, players are saying, now I can do this because you're less likely to trade your bishop off. Todorov drew with Nidich. A strange choice by Nidich, really. Todorov is a good strategic player. He won a bunch of games against me on my stream. D takes C. And now there is a little bit of pressure here. You can see people even played D3. Barla. Trying to keep control of. It's sort of pathetic, but yeah. So Arsenal goes a different direction. I was considering everything. I think you should consider everything. Even bishop C4. Maybe not great, because I guess knight F6. Knight F6, for example, E5, D5. Black is active. But I'm just saying you should consider it. I didn't mean you should play it. This obviously could be played. I think there, D5 again. So, it looks like this is the best alternative to bishop takes C6. And, well, no one particularly good has played this with white, but there's some decent players. So the critical line looks like takes, D takes, and D4. This is Todorov, Nidich. C takes D4. And then Todorov probably took the queen. He likes queen trades. No, he didn't. Wow. Not surprising. I'm surprised. Todorov loves trading queens normally. He played CD. But objectively, that might be better. Bishop G7. H3. So that is an artificial bishop. Knight F6. Knight C3. And now castles. Castles. B5, some players have played here. Kosinseva, Platt. But I'm interested in what Nidich did. What did he do? A5? Wow. That's kind of a weird move. You know what he's doing. It looks like Nidich is grabbing space. But there may be a b5 bishop a6 idea here too. I would think rook e1. Rook e1, b5. He didn't play it. Ikonikov played that. Wow, h6, that's a very strange move. Anyway, okay, whatever. It's just a random game, but I wanted to see what Nidich would do. All right, so, your line is not so bad. Bishop c2, b5, bishop here. Okay, there's a recent game, 2017, with Kishatila, with black. It's not a bad IM. But I would think d5 is rather weird. Bishop g7. Wow. Black is 2-0 here. Castles. We get some transpositions now. e5 is the most popular move, but there's all sorts of options. I would think if e5 you play d4 anyway. You don't have to. But I would strongly consider it. No one played that. That's weird. Don't you think this is like worth a look? I'm not really concerned about that pawn not going anywhere, Yeah, I played d4. I'm surprised that no one played it. Like, are they really worried about losing a pawn? I mean, Jesus. Takes. What's black going to do here? White has total compensation. Pretty obvious. There's a really wild move now. Look at this. C takes d4, e5, bro. Look at that position. e5, 8 games, and no one played d4 with white. That's crazy. It's a critical move. You do what the opponent doesn't want you to do. His whole position is designed to control d4. So basically, if you can play d4 anyway, you're refuting his whole shit, If you put every piece on the board trying to hold back d4 and you play that anyway, well, I guess you just kind of question his entire existence. But everyone else is like a4 and d3, which is fine, but it's lame. Obviously this is lame. So anyway, your opponent doesn't do that. What's up, WJ Loof? Welcome back. Jesus pawns. Jesus people. How are things in the Third Reich? I was thinking that they should do like a cartoon. How to tell the difference between the ICE and the regular police. I was thinking they should start like a new land shark, but do it with like alligators. Like somebody's banging on your door, and they have like a giant alligator, and they're like, "Who is it?" Land shark, no. ICE, you're that tricky land alligator, aren't you? Because you don't want to open the door, because the ICE will get you. So maybe Saturday Night Live should come back with an alligator Alcatraz version of Land Shark. That was just my idea. But yeah, I'm going back to visit the Third Reich for the first time since Hitler became president again. All right, so castles, knight f6. Oh no, he's in charge of X. Sorry. Knight f6, rook e1. Castles, d4. C takes d4, c takes d4, d5. So what do you guys think about this? This whole thing. Sorry, I got political. Life in an occupied land is hard. It's hard enough just watching the news. I got to tune it out. I started to try to just not think about it. It's a good thing we have chess. Chess is an escape. Anyway, knight f6, this is an important juncture now. Arsenal, I think you've got to seriously consider e5 here. Oh, you think he could play d5 right away? Well, that's an interesting suggestion. So it's odd that you say that, because both this Roganovich, who I don't know, and Kish Attila. Kish Attila must really be farming. I mean, he's still 2371 in 2017. He's older and weaker than me. I gotta find these like these tournaments where you like can play a lot of. He lives in like Sambate or something, like some kind of. See, that's what happens when you live on the border of Austria. You get those like border players from the rich country coming over the border and dumping rating points over the border. If I lived on the border of Austria, I'd be like 50 points higher rated. Border effect. Yeah, d5. It's odd that both strong players played that. It looks like a decent move. So you're going to have to play sharply here. See, people were lame. They both like... Dude, I don't think you can play these moves. Vojanovic, that guy who used to do simuls on ICC, played rook e1. This is probably not such a bad move. What happens if like d4? Just asking for a friend. Yeah, it's better for black already. And no, I mean, I don't understand what's up with d4, honestly. The guy played this, which looks weird. I don't get d takes e4. I don't know why we wouldn't go here. Kind of shutting white down. You're threatening d3. I don't see any problem with that move. So, and this is like passive and lame. The 2200 loss to Kish Attila. Well, I mean, yeah, d3 is super lame. So white is not better for sure. But my question is taking, you know, this is the more dynamic option. I really want to do this, and I want to go for it. Do the impossible again. So let's go for it with like d4. I think the people are too materialistic. Oh my god, I'm losing a pawn. Oh, we can't consider it. So what does black do now after this? Do you want d4 for what? Well, there's all sorts of good shit happening. The bottom line is dude's king is in the center of the board. We're opening the position. Bye-bye. Black has to be very careful about taking this pawn. So I'm sitting there. There are two games. I mean, these guys, two of them are supposed to be 2,400. The other one, okay, he's a weaker player trying to draw. He lost by playing passively against Kish Attila, whatever. 2268 still. How can no one play pawn takes pawn here? Yo, my god, his queen is developed. Yeah, sure, but you have to play d4. Yeah, and you're right. Bishop e3 is a huge thing. I mean, I don't think that black could safely take this pawn. You know, even if I just recapture. You know, is this safe for black? Do you think so? Because black has like no development at all. Anyways, yeah. So they just didn't find the best move. Now here I think this is worth considering. You got a serious alternative now with e5. Because if he plays knight g4, that knight is going to have to recycle back through h6. You know, that's pretty awkward. So it seems like he has to play knight d5. And I guess this is, to be honest, kind of a normal sort of position, right? Probably you play d4, black takes. It looks like a c3 Sicilian, not a Rossolimo. You know, there you even have your bishop b3 ideas again. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of course it does. Of course it does. And now you can make them jump out of their chair with bishop takes d5. Yeah, it absolutely looks like a Rosslima. I mean, like an Alapin. Exactly. So I think you should seriously consider e5. Let's see. Yeah, it's close. You know, it's really close. And it's also surprising, you know, how few games there are here. So rook e1 is fine. There's a game by Nicolaitis with black and Romanishin with black. Wow. So d6 black is 2-0. Very solid move. Bro. 2 out of 2 strong players played d6 here. That must mean something. You know, that looks a lot like the d6 lines that I play can happen. You know that? This sort of thing can happen in those lines where you go like bishop a4 instead of bishop f1. You know, Arsenal? Except the bishop wouldn't be so quickly on g7. But I think it's interesting that Romanishin and Nicolaitis both played bishop d6 now. It's not the most obvious move. You'd think like people would just castle. Castle seems more or less fine. I mean, getting the king out of center, crazy, huh? What an unbelievable move. Okay, so d6, what's the point? You've got bishop g4. That's the point, right? If you go d4 right away, you're going to get in these bishop g4 ideas for black. But it's complex, you know. You might be able to get away with playing d4 and allowing bishop g4. So if you play d4, I guess they take. You take with the pawn, and then they play bishop g4. But this is unclear, you know. It looks like a Roy. This might be okay. You know, you got your favorite bishop e3. Arsenal fan. At home mode. The engine thinks that black is slightly better, but I'm not that convinced. Okay, knight d7. Still, it's close. Safer to play h3. So this was played in both of those games, h3, and now we have two different paths. Someone played c4 and someone played bishop b7. Romanishin was not afraid and didn't panic with the c4. d4, wow. So I want to see what Romanishin did. Yeah, c4 is looking like a little bit panicked by black. Castles, he just allows d5 and then goes back. Romanishin turned it into a kind of Schmid-Benoni. It's a risky way of playing with black. So Nicolaitis' move is safer, preventing white from playing, you know, the d4. To be honest, though, I would think like black could also play e5. e5 is fine. It's a Spanish. That's probably the safest move of all. Although Sicilian players, in my experience, like myself, don't want to do that. You know, we don't want to do that. If we wanted to do that, we wouldn't play this. We wouldn't play the Sicilian. We would play the black side of e4, e5. But you've got like Romanishin who plays both. So anyway, back to the game. Knight f6, rook e1, castles. That's logical. And now d4. Again, you could have played e5. So take, and yes. Black is not forced to play d5 here. But I mean, maybe this is a threat. So the alternative, like, well, I mean, to be honest, black also has knight b4. But I'm saying, if black were to just play bishop b7, you would have d5, and then on knight b4, you go here, and you're threatening a3, winning a piece. I mean, black would have to play like a5. This is getting kind of weird. I mean, even d6 looks kind of weird. Maybe that's not enough, though. But I was going to say, for black, maybe he can play d6, kind of in the same spirit as Romanician. However, Romanician didn't allow the knight to come to this good square. Actually, you have to watch out for bishop g4 there, too. So on d6, like h3 again, we transpose to some games. But your opponent goes d5. This is different. Now e5. And now black gotta seriously consider your options here. Black can play knight g4, knight e4, and knight d7. I mean, knight e8 looks passive. But I think, you know, knight e4 is really critical. This is like that other game we saw. No, you're a fan of Arsenal. Oh, I thought you said you're not a fan of choices. Might need glasses. I don't. You know I need glasses. Get some balls. You know, black needs to get some balls. Seriously? Okay, it's not that big a deal. Get some balls, bro. I mean, come on. Seriously. What's up here? He has to try knight e4. You want to win a pawn? I've been there. You know, I don't think this is too convincing. It's playable. I had a game with a computer like this once. I had a game with like an old Fritz engine where it grabbed the pawn and it went over here. Okay, this is complicated. But I mean, you're playing a human, not a computer. I'll take my chances. Actually, this is better than it looks. There's even like bishop f5. You can't even go here because of knight takes e5. You've got like no development, you know. I wouldn't take the pawn. Fuck that. You know, you have to play a sensible move here. So knight c3 is obvious. This is a standard type of structure where you're probably better, but you do have some backwardness here. Another option for you, I mean, you have a lot of options. You could play something quiet, maybe like a3, just taking control of the b4 square. But I feel like black's probably okay. You know, he can reinforce the knight on e4. So you want to get rid of it, you have to get rid of it now, which means probably like, let's say knight d2. Okay, this looks like the sanest thing to do. Say you play knight d2, right? It's like an open Roy. And if knight takes c2, bishop takes c2. In fact, maybe you don't even play bishop takes c2. I don't know. Queen takes, bishop g4. That's awkward. Very awkward. Queen takes, bishop g4. Maybe you have bishop d1. This is getting a little strange, you know. So maybe we take with the bishop, but we have to allow bishop g4. And then we have to defend the pawn. So I have to move the bishop again. You know, then black like piles up. Queen b6. Now we're going to have to take back with the pawn, play the freaking Aliekin's defense. I don't know, bishop e3, bishop takes f3, pawn takes f3, you know, e6. This kind of thing. Let me see what the computer says here. Wow. There's no discussion of taking the pawn, obviously. But what I find very interesting here, knight e4 is clearly the best move. The first shocker is this is the second best move. Because white doesn't have g4, obviously. This guy 2280 needs to have his rating removed. Yeah, I'm not playing knight e8, so this is forced. But now the computer comes up with some good stuff. Preparatory bishop e3. Or, yeah, so prophylactic moves are your strongest. h3, bishop e3. h3 looks weaker to me, but it does stop bishop g4. You're going to have to watch this stuff here. Black can play, Petrov style, f6 and f5, and maybe bishop f5. So that's the key. The best line is bishop e3. I even said a3, remember? See, if a3, f6, black has counterplay. So bishop e3, knight b4, bishop e3, I guess. Wow, it's like a Spanish. a5, a3, knight c6. Crazy stuff. Anyway, very Sicilian-like. I mean, Spanish-like. So he plays knight d7, bro. I don't think this is worse than knight e8. Honestly. But it's not better. I mean, at least with knight e8, like, he keeps d5 protected. It's not like the knight has a bright future. It's going to go to b6. When you play b3, it can't move again. I was even thinking like this might literally be better, because this is not so terrible for black. I can do the old king h8, knight g8, or f6. Asterbate would play knight g4 all day long. Yeah, knight c7, anything. Yeah, this is probably like the worst square. And now you play bishop g5. I don't know what to do now. I think you'd be justified in playing like... I mean, it's very tempting to play h4, bro. I've got to be honest. This is extremely tempting. You had to be tempted to play this. Because you're like very close to ripping his face off here. h4, h5. Okay, he can try. Let's say knight b6, h5. Bishop g4. Even h6 is probably pretty interesting. So you can choose how crazy you want to be here. But I don't think h4 is... like a controlled move, obviously. In a vacuum, I think your best is probably something solid. Knight c3 would give you an attack on d5 and give your bishop a square to go back to. So that would kind of kill knight b4. You always have this now. If I'm thinking like honestly, I think this makes a lot of sense. Black will probably play knight b6. Your knight can go over here later. You also have a knight a4 if he plays there. So if it was me, I think I would have played knight c3. When he goes knight b6, now I would play h3, stopping bishop g4. You keep your bishops here like in the Spanish, and you give yourself that key component of having that move. Black has got no counterplay, I feel like knight c3, e6 though. Well, knight c3, e6, fine. But you have a very serious space advantage here, No, e6 is absolutely playable. But I mean, now I'm even more tempted to play your move. Now he like has to play f6. You take. This looks like a good French. It looks like a good French. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with bishop g5, except I'm a little bit afraid he might have f6, It may not be that bad. Well, I think it's his best move. I mean, hands down. He has to play f6. And you have to probably take. And then the question is which way he recaptures. Because honestly, I think he could take with the pawn or the knight. I mean, he could take with the bishop too. Take with the fucking rook if he wants to. But, I mean, any recapture is possible here. So this is the question, though. This one or this one? They're both very different. I think you're better. But I think I would prefer to wait on the bishop g5. So, Stockfish says h3, f6 anyway. Wow. But knight c3 was its first instinct. My line with knight c3, knight b6. Yeah, h3. That's what I said. Okay, so f6 anyway. You take anyway. He takes with the pawn. The computer's thinking about rook takes there. That's really disgusting. Pawn takes. So this is your typical kind of game. You're better. You know, you're definitely better. All right, bishop g5 is cool. It's playable. You may be kind of losing a tempo. You know, it's probably going to be f6, takes, bishop f4. And you have to watch g5. You know, maybe not right away, but at some point. That can be a good move for black. You don't have to go to f4, having said that, but you know, I don't really like the alternatives that much. So, anyway, he played queen c7. That's a disaster. Again, I think you tuned this out for some reason. Maybe you were thinking knight d2. You know, honestly, tell me. Are you hooked on knight d2? Are you hooked on phonics? Maybe you're right. I mean, this is actually a more natural sort of Roy Lopez plan with the knight d2. But the nice thing about knight c3, it's like with tempo. You know, you're developing with tempo. You might even be able to go to the c file and just pile up on him real quick. So anyway, bishop b3. I suddenly had this like, don't like knight b6, knight c4. You know, I mean, you normally want to keep, this available. The b3 to keep him out of c4. So he should have played knight b6. I mean, I think you're still like a lot better, hugely better. You have a bigly advantage here. You also have to watch for bishop g4, so knight d2 might be appropriate there. But if you get to this situation where here, you know, I don't know, here, you know, rook c1, knight c4, it may not be that easy. You know, once the knight gets in there, what are you going to do? You're going to have to make some kind of compromise, like give up your bishop or... but anyway, he played e6. Another thing is your bishop is stuck here. You know, here it's stuck too, but maybe you have h4, h5 later. All right, anyway, e6 isn't great, knight d2. Now he needs to try this, like, immediately. He misses that too. Materialistic, queen b6. Big mistake. Damn, I mean, he has to find this idea. The bro is missing it completely. So now rook c1, knight c4. What do you do? I know you're good tactically. You're going to have to find something here. Like takes, go here and try to play b3. Or, you know, takes and go here, trying to go to e4 or play d5. I don't know. It's going to be hard to play against the knight on c4. You know what I mean? So you got yourself in kind of an awkward situation there. But luckily, he played queen b6. At least his knight would know where to go. And then knight f1. And now this f6 is black's only active move. You kind of put the kibosh on that, though. The one good thing about bishop e3 is that he... okay, he has knight a5, knight c4 as well. But he's probably afraid to play f6. So this is ugly. Rook c1. Rook c8. In my experience, this player also plays too fast. He makes you look slow. You've actually used less time than him. But dude needs to find a move here. You know, he needs to find knight a5, like, immediately. Actually, knight a5 allows bishop e7. Maybe that's not so good. Or I'm not so sure he wants to allow that. If he lets this happen, it gets in there, you know. So, after knight f1, I guess I'm going to vote for f6 anyway. Take his chances and take back with the knight. And, you might even have this, which will keep him honest, because you have these kind of tactics like knight takes d5, maybe. He'll have to watch out, move his king to h8. See, this bishop could actually play on that diagonal. Knight f1, bishop b7, okay, rook c1, rook c8, queen d2. Now you're threatening serious stuff. He's drifting into a kingside attack. And if he waits a couple more moves, he's going to get, like, mated. I've seen this happen a few times in my life. You have a very strong King's Indian attack type bishop h6 trade. a5, okay, that's obviously reasonable. Your bishop has a very funny retreat here. Bishop c2 is probably fine. So you go h4, good. b4, that's very slow. I don't know what he's doing. He should prefer pretty much anything else. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do for black. I mean, a4, bishop c2, knight b4, bishop b1. Okay, you have a huge advantage now. It might be too late to save it. It's plus 1.2. Plus 1.2. Oh my god, he has a tactic. a4, bishop c2, knight takes d4. What? Dude, the computer is sacking a piece. Sound the alarm of desperation. Yeah, it looks like. But I mean, that's how bad its position is, that it's going to sack a piece now. The human player wouldn't do that. Most human players wouldn't do that. It would take a very strong player to come up with this. Black knows he's lost, so he's sacking a piece for 2 pawns. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, and now take on e5. Better to be down a piece for 2 pawns and take, create some chaos than go down without a fight. This is a really good practical try. Now maybe there's a threat of queen takes d4, knight f3 check, messing up your structure. So if you just play like a random move, he'll have this, takes, knight f3 check, and then, anything could happen in this kind of endgame. Look at this endgame. It's not clear that you're going to win with the pawn structure destroyed and the guy having a bunch of healthy pawns. So this is a really neat idea. h4, b4, I don't get what it does. You've got a4 covered. He has no threats. And now I think you should just go, This is no time to slow down. You should play h5. You played h4, you should play h5. And then we'll see how you're going to follow up. I don't think you should hesitate here. Did you think he's going to play, like, I don't know, queen b5 or something? Okay, whatever. It's still good. Bishop a4 is still good. It's still good. Fine. This is a good move. His best move of the game. And now knight g3. Okay. Fair enough. You played controlled chess. Bishop b5. Now, why c2? Okay, c2. I don't know. Okay. c2, a4, h5. I like how well coordinated you are. This is beautiful. Both bishops, the 2 knights working together. Yeah, he's getting just tooled here. Black has no idea what to do. I think he should probably sack a pawn with b3. Do you have any questions, comments? I mean, his other option is to play knight a5. Oh no, that loses b4, right? He's got to play b3. He can't let you just, like, massacre him. This is the only move. And you'll take. And then he'll take. And if you take, he has some play. Because he has the c4 outpost. So he can dictate the play a little bit. Not letting you just, like, rampage on his king side. I'd rather be down a pawn than let you just rip me apart on the king side for free. So this is like our own goal. So bishop a6, and now he just hung a pawn with bishop takes a4. But you're like, nope, I want to alpha zero him first. So I thought you were playing for mate, but now it's a whole different thing. It's like total domination, world domination. h6, bishop h8, and then take the pawn. Yeah, this is... You don't need to checkmate him. This is good. This is crushing. You could probably sack the exchange here. Jesus Christ. It's a little too ambitious. I'm having these like fantasies of going here and like, you know, getting like mate or something. But that's too much, you know, and obviously here. And now he trades your bishop. Okay. So you clear your pawn up. And you have a space advantage. And he's like got no bishop. He has to play f6. Really steady game there by you. But you got to consider queen takes, right? Because you're on the file. No. Looks good. I guess he has, well, I mean, he has knight b6. He can't even play rook c8 because he gets back rank mated. So, queen takes looks good. But either way, you can do queen c1. That's what you did. Playing with your food. Okay. This is really like, now it's really ugly. This is like torturing the other guy. Arsenal likes this part. And the guy had to. He had to. Because his bishop was non-existent. He's lucky he has a bishop at all. Yeah, I saw the end of this, right? You saw the end of this. Oh. Check. And did you do knight takes g6 now? That was an elegant finish, right? That's kind of cute. I like knight takes g6. He has rook takes c8. No, you have queen takes. I mean, it's a winning knight endgame. You think like he might survive here? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, okay. You're right. No. This is too much. Yeah, good point. I mean, you do have... Yeah, you're right. Damn. Queen takes, knight check, king f7. Knight takes, king g6. If only you could get another pawn. Damn. His knight is so bad on a6. You're up a pawn here, even losing h6, but you can't seem to attack his pawns. That's so annoying. b4 is protected. It's hard to attack e6. How do you attack e6? God. Yeah, that's not so easy. That sucks. All right. So you played rook c6, and this is crushing. You gotta come up with something nasty here, like rook takes, queen takes e4, rook takes g6 check. Unfortunately, he has king h8. I want there to be... Oh, there is, right? You have this. Oh, no. Oh, no. You have this. This is cute. Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee he would play that, though. You know, after queen a7, rook takes e6. Well, he doesn't really have another move. He would take the pawn. And then you have this. Check. Yeah, I didn't see it at first either. So obviously takes his mate. He has to go here. This doesn't... Oh, yeah, it works. Oh. Yeah, that's sweet. Takes and queen mate. Here, check. Mate. Puzzle. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a puzzle. So rook c6, queen a7, and then you played... This is so beautiful because you're lined up on everything, you know? How fast did you play this move? Yeah, you had you spent 20 seconds on the move, but I mean you had a large time advantage here. Okay, rook takes c6, queen takes d4. You have to see it. You might have seen it, and you might have just not seen knight f7. Probably you looked at it. But don't you also have rook g7? Okay, there he has some defenses like queen e4. You're going to have the thing again. It doesn't work. God damn it. There's a really neat idea I want to play like this. But he has queen e1 check. Sucks. So yeah, knight f7 is the only mate. So there, okay. Anyway, you played safe. Queen d2. Super lame knight. And he's mated. I was just wondering if there's anything weird here. No. You could play like knight d7, obviously. Knight d7 is pretty crushing. You gotta sack his queen. This is also good enough. And check. And you did the same thing. Yeah. You had the sack his queen. Alright, good game. Anyway, I love this game. I like the Roslimo. I've been doing a lot of Nimzo. So these strategic kind of lines are very cool. I'm playing more closed stuff lately, and it's a lot of fun. All right, guys. Thanks, Mr. Holiday, for the big donation, 66. And I'm going on holiday on Sunday. So we got tomorrow, maybe a short blitz stream, Friday, and Saturday night simul, rather than Sunday night, Saturday night classical simul. And then I'm on holiday for 10 days. So thanks, guys. Have a great night. Thanks for staying with me. And I'll see you tomorrow for some blitz. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Slow. Arsenal Bait.